What's going on, PTG fam? Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. We can't thank our sponsors enough. Our sponsors have done a great job supporting us, and we would like to return the favor. This episode is brought to you by Transfuse. Transfuse is an amazing electrolyte energy drink. We've been talking about it nonstop. You guys already know my favorite flavor, watermelon lime, all the good stuff that it has in it. It's got all of your main electrolytes, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin B, and then boom, potassium, sodium, magnesium. This stuff's the business. Bottom line, if you haven't tried it yet, I don't know what you are doing. Why are you not trying this stuff? Everybody that tries it sends us photos left and right telling us how much they love it. Testimonials are great. The stuff speaks for itself. It tastes really good. It's easy to get down. A lot of people that don't normally like to drink water say they're having so much more success drinking water and enjoying drinking water, and they're feeling a lot better. Again, vitamin C and zinc, it is great for your immune system, great for the brain. Vitamin B, amazing for the brain. Electrolytes, they're essential. A lot of us walk around dehydrated, don't even realize it. You guys can head over to translabs.com. That's translabs.com. Use code PLAYTHEGAME at checkout and you will get 10% off. Also, a nice little addition they have done for us. If you become a subscriber of Transfuse to where they ship you your product monthly, you don't have to ever deal with the hassle. You can choose your flavor, choose how much, and every single month you will be on the auto ship program. You'll get an extra 10% off. It's actually 11%. So I believe the total price comes down to $32 a box, which is a total steal. That's a little over $1 a packet, which is definitely worth it when you're talking about your health. So give it a try, guys. And again, tag us, tag Play the Game in anything that you get of ours from any of our sponsors. We'd love to share it. We'd love to see you guys enjoying this stuff. And we know that you're going to love it. It's an awesome product. It's really, really, really good. I drink it every single day. It's actually in my cup right now. For those listening, you can head over to the YouTube channel if you want to see, but I've got it in my cup. It's awesome. Watermelon lime, my favorite flavor. This episode is also brought to you by Heal Brand. Heal Brand is a great CBD company. I've been using CBD for about 2 years now, and I just love this stuff. It helps me sleep better, bottom line. That's the biggest thing that I've noticed from it. CBD is so crucial in getting a good night's sleep for me. I travel with it. I take it every single night. I don't miss a beat, and Heal Brand is next level CBD. Reason being is they have something called nanotechnology. Nanotechnology makes their CBD more bioavailable. Pretty much throughout the entire health industry, bioavailability is like the talk of the town. What is bioavailability? It means that your body can process this stuff much more efficiently and effectively. They have basically micronized the formula so that the CBD can break through the cellular wall and you absorb it much more quickly and much better. So you need a much smaller dose than your regular CBD. Regular CBD, I was taking between 80 and 100 milligrams a night. On nights where I was really trying to make sure that I got good night's sleep. With this stuff, I need maybe 15 to 20 milligrams tops, and I feel it right away. I actually feel the CBD, whereas before I would always talk about CBD and, definitely a huge advocate and talk about how much I loved it, but I didn't really feel anything. All I knew was once I fell asleep, I would stay asleep. I've had trouble sleeping pretty much my whole life. It's hard to turn my brain off. I try a lot of different techniques from meditation before bed, make sure that I'm not watching TV, you name it. Sleep is really the most essential building block to your health. It's your foundation for physical health and mental health. You really need to be getting good sleep. So I've always been trying to do whatever I can to make sure that I am getting proper sleep. CBD is the best thing for it. And CBD with this nanotechnology is really a game changer. Truly has been. I feel it. It helps me go to sleep. This nanotechnology stuff seems like it hits much stronger. I love it. It's great. They have these awesome energy drinks as well. They have energy drinks. They have a knockout drink. You just got to check them out. Head over to healbrand.com. Use code PLAYTHEGAME. You're also going to get 10% off. Like I said, you can try these energy drinks and these knockout drinks at a much more affordable price. If you're unsure how you feel about CBD, this is a great little entry point. You could get just one bottle for about $4.25, and you could try it for yourself. See if you like it. Then maybe you could get one of the tinctures. I take both. I have a tincture. Take a couple drops before bed, and every other night, every couple nights, I'll take one of the knockout little drinks as well, and it's just awesome. I love it, period. I love it. I'm going to take it tonight. I'm going to sleep like an angel. It's going to be fantastic. This episode is also brought to you by, of course, G2 Paintball. G2 Paintball is crushing it out in Arizona. They are doing such great things for the community. It's a paintball fitness program designed to make you a better paintball athlete. And we love it. We love G2 Paintball. Tyler Harmon works with them. I work with them. Brandon Unger. It's owned and operated by Rusty Glaze and Victor Gamboa, coach and assistant coach of San Diego Dynasty. So I think they know what they're doing. They come out to the Paintball Combine. They have very affordable classes that you can get to. You can learn from the best, train with the best. Their motto is train hard, win easy. Just makes sense. They're fantastic. Check them out, g2paintball.com, and see if you can make it to one of the events. I definitely hope to see you there soon. All right, everybody, without further ado, we're going to jump into this episode. This one was such a good one with Mike Hinman. Mike Hinman is a legendary just person in paintball. He was a top-level player, had so much success, extremely decorated as a paintball athlete, moved into an amazing and decorated paintball coach. He started San Diego Aftermath, built a team of kids into a bunch of young assassins, one of the most legendary divisional franchises in the history of the game, and also coached a professional organization, Dynasty, Ironman, to different wins, and now he owns one of the best regional leagues in the world, the WCPPL. He also is the owner of APX Paint. So just a dominator in the paintball scene. Mike Hinman is a fantastic dude on and off the field, and he just has a tons of great stuff for you guys to hear. So here we go. I'll see you in the show.
That was an insane inside move by Marcelo Margot. Great communication. And the crowd starts chanting Harmon. Great shot by all the guys. So Tyler Harmon saved that game. He came out with 2 wins. Marcelo Margot was on fire.
Mike Hinman, the absolute legend, dominant player, coach, one of the best minds in all of paintball, hands down. Dude, we're stoked to have you, man. The legend is in the building.
I'm glad to be here with you guys, man. Love both you guys. I'm stoked to be able to share some time with you guys.
The honor's all ours, brother. It's been, it's been a long time. We've been in this game together, and we've been so fortunate enough to play on, the same organizations. Marcelo was on Aftermath before I was, but I was fortunate enough to be a part of that camp with you. And one of the most dominant coaches to ever do what he does,
Oh, yeah.
And Hinge Master, the honor's all ours, brother. How's it been out there? I know times have been crazy. What's the landscape looking like over at the Hinge Meisters area?
Life's good over here, man. The sun's bright. You know, everybody's smiling. Everybody's happy, fed, gaining weight.
I love
that. Like the gains are real. So, I mean, life's good over here, man. Everybody's in the pool, swimming. But no, life's good, man. Paintball's good. I think, locally, regionally, I think paintball's still doing really good. I think paintball's still fun, right? It's the politics and drama that tend to mess it up a little bit for everybody out there. And I think this year has probably took a foot off of the gas pedal on the drama and the politics, because there's really been nothing to do, no events to play short of Vegas, and regionally, all the regionals are still going. But I think it's
booming. They're doing really well. Yeah.
They're doing well, Southern California is an interesting scene, going to all the local fields and seeing it. I mean, Victory's down, Fran and them are down right now. But the other fields, I think paintball's doing good. I think it could be a lot better.
For sure.
I wish we had more owners on the field level that were more in tune with what's happening in paintball. Not throwing stones. It's just much like the WCPPL. I thought, from my point of view, I'll put my own money up and do it myself. And I've done it my own way, right, wrong, or indifferent. But from a field level, you kind of sit back sometimes. And I mean, like Tyler, you just moved to Arizona. It's an oven out there. Bro. But you guys have got nice fields out there, right? Like Wild West is nice. Battle Zone is great.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's multiple fields out there, and that's for a really small population density. You come to Southern California, which is supposed to be the mecca of paintball. And I mean, we don't have the fields that other regions and locations do. I'm not saying we don't have any fields, and we do have some, but you would think for the 20, 30 million people in Southern California, between LA down to San Diego and Orange County, Riverside, we would just have more going on. and we really don't, you know. I mean, ASG is a great location. You know, there's good fields, don't get me wrong. I just, from my industry standpoint, going out and watching, you're kind of like,
yeah.
oof.
I know Marcelo, I hear it from my dude. He's like, I just want to play paintball, you know, and like it isn't the easiest thing for you guys in Southern California, unfortunately. And like you said, I moved out to Arizona in the beginning of the year, and for my wife and kids, and good opportunities with paintball and whatnot. And it's been amazing. Absolutely love the Arizona community and the fields, Battle Zone, Wild West. There's even an indoor that's downtown American Paintball Coliseum. They just got some new turf in there. And yeah, I'm loving it. And I hope that we can start to, you know, get things moving here a little bit better out in Cali. I know it's been crazy out there. It's been nuts.
Yeah, it's just tough. Where do you go? You know, like if you're not part of a clique, you're not part of a team.
Yeah.
You know, like out here, the Narcos, which is, you know, Oz runs that team.
Yeah.
There's a good 50, 60, 70, 80 dudes in that camp. It's a great ladder to be able to climb the ranks, but a lot of people don't have a lot of opportunity. And, you know, you sit back now because, you know, doing the Aftermath thing, you know, we showed up with our gang and we were ready to play paintball.
Dude, let's go Aftermath. Let's go.
Yeah, we got to get into that for sure.
You sit back and you look at it at these, you know, onesie twosie kids sitting on the sideline, and you're kind of like, man, how do you get them, you know, like Marcelo, when you were young at Velocity, like how do you get those kids in? And it was different back then because we had a hyperball field to play on, and everybody mixed it up, and street ball was a big thing. Yeah, it's not like an HK branded thing. It's just everybody. Hey, Tyler, you got 3 pods. I got 2 pods. Go to that side. And now it's really different, right? It's very my team. And if you're not on a team, you've got a couple employees at APX that aren't on a team right now, and they're like, "Yeah, I just went and stood there all day. I couldn't get on with anybody."
No way.
And and it's just, you know, again, it's not that paintball's in a bad spot.
I'm a little out of touch with it because I've been playing pro paintball since I was 14 years old. So, you know, it's like I don't really get to see that aspect of the game. And I only what I hear, obviously, you know, but that's crazy. Whoa.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot, you see it. You see a lot of kids out in the parking lot that have their really nice gear. How do you get them in and make them feel comfortable playing at a higher level and transition in without, you know, like showing up to an Aftermath practice where you're going to catch 15 in the side of the head? Like it just that's not good for paintball, you know?
You're right.
I think a big difference too, though, and we always try to encourage the pro players on your off weekends to go out and play. Back in the day, the paintball field was the place to be every single weekend. So if you didn't have practice, the pros were at the field, the kids were at the field, and it was much easier to mix in and get games in. I actually remember, this is something I wanted to ask you too, Mike, was how, you know, the kids that you selected for that first Aftermath team even got on your radar. I think I have my version of how maybe it went down, but that was the difference back then is kids were playing every single weekend, pros were playing every single weekend. And now it's like, if there's not an event, some of the pros aren't practicing, you know, they're not even at the field just to play for fun anymore, you know? So we always encourage, like, get out to the field and have fun at your local field. That's why I think Texas Paintball does really well. They have 2, you know, with X Factor and the Paintball Fit location. I think a lot of the pros go out there every weekend and work with all the divisional guys, and they have a good kind of fraternity there. Whereas we don't have that anymore. Before, you go to SE Village or, like you said, Velocity, Adrenaline during the week, you know, the pros were always there, and it was just like, hey, can we mix in? Can we have fun? You know, how can we grind?
Well, you rub shoulders with them, right? And there was an opportunity to get that chance. I mean, like yourself, Marcelo, like we would go up to Velocity, and, you know, it would be 3:00 in the afternoon, and you're still out there with your dye gear on because you were one of the dye kids coming through, you know, and it was like, man, that kid's got heart. He's been here at 8:00 in the morning, and it's 3:30, and he's still grinding, still going. And like you mentioned, how guys got on my radar, that's what I looked for, right? Was grit. It wasn't, you know, you didn't have to have Ryan Greenspan paintball IQ to make it. It was just, were you a gritty human being?
Yeah.
You know, and I think we lose that. You know, I get messages, just same as you guys do, right? Yeah. I get these messages from kids that are asking me, you know, how can I be the next Aftermath guy, or how can I get under your wing and like be shown? And it's like, well, and it's really tough, right? Exactly. But you almost, if I have to tell you to show up.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah, we've already gone too far with this, right? Like when I got to get you out of bed to get you to the field.
It's really funny, Mike. I do a lot of coaching now, and specifically this team in New York I work with on a regular basis. But I've taken so much of the way you coached us, and I truly think, as far as like bringing kids up through the ranks, there's nobody that has done it better than you, hands down.
Without a doubt.
You look at the players that you've built in the league, and it's unparalleled, you know?
Yeah, and I appreciate it, man. I mean, for me, it's the heart, right? Like, I could see heart in people.
Exactly.
I could see the heart. And then the rest, if you got heart and you're going to take a fucking pounding, you know, you're probably going to be good at whatever, whether it's paintball. I mean, look at how many guys, Crunchy Black, kids that have come up through our camp, and some of the originals that started, you know, like Derek, right? Marcelo that started on the original. He was a Navy SEAL.
Right.
Robbie Pinelli, Navy SEAL. I mean, he came through the trauma camp and the gridlock camp. But a lot of these guys, you're kind of like, I mean, Kyle Spitka. I mean, he came out here with nothing, lived at my house, worked at Nordstrom selling shoes. I mean, like, but he never gave up on his vision and his goal. And these days, a lot of the young kids I see coming up, they just don't have that desire, you know, like,
for sure.
I don't know if society itself has changed where people are into such instant gratification, you know, that it like they need it right here, right now. Dude.
I think you're hitting it on the head right there. It's a very instant gratification world. And, you know, it's a gritty, hard climb to get into pro paintball. You got to really have a selfless outlook on it and do it for the joy of it and for the love of paintball. And like you said, Marcelo, yes, we encourage everybody, go play as much paintball any weekend you can. We got to be out there at the fields, mingling with the people, having fun for the culture of the game. That's what this is all about. And like Mike said, just rubbing shoulders with people, that's how you're going to get picked up. That's how you're going to get noticed. That's how.
And there's a point of lucky to it, right? Like you got to be good. You have to. And this is what I tell a lot of these young guys, you know, it's not that Tyler or Marcelo are just physical specimens, and that's the only reason you guys are pro. It's the spacing between the ears. It's your brain, really, because I mean, you guys all coach. You see a D4 guy and you're like, man, that kid, he could be suiting up on Dynasty if he understood what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Like physically, a lot of these guys have got it.
Sure.
It's the mistakes and the windows that they leave open, where you guys don't leave any window. They leave 5-foot open windows. And that's the difference between D4 and pro these days. But a lot of
we didn't even have D4 when we started.
No.
D3. No. You know, like I don't even know what D4 and D5 is like.
Yeah.
Totally agreed. But and there's a luck factor to it too, right? Like,
for sure.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, for myself, I was bushwhackers to shock tech to aftershock, and one Saturday at a practice, a phone rang and it was Todd calling saying, "Hey, fly to Bob's house. Tyler, you were still playing with the Assassins." And I think Kenny had broken his femur the day before.
Dude,
and
I remember that.
Me and Mini Mike flew straight, like from there, Skinny Kevin and Todd picked us up.
Yeah.
Boom. We were at practice on Sunday and driving home with the team on Sunday on the team, you know?
Dude, that's crazy. I have vivid memories of you out there at Bob's house running around in that death pit of a field that we had out there, dude. That was crazy times at Bob's house.
Ron, Kevin,
Arnold
jumping up into 100 paintballs, yelling Scarface, mother, running down the field where you're just like, I don't understand this pro game, but I don't know why that dude just got shot 100 times. Like, did you? I mean, trust me, you didn't scare me by doing that. You just got painted.
Dude, they were crazy. My team was insane, and they just had the biggest passion for. It was West Coast ball.
What's funny is I saw Arnold 2 weekends ago. He was at a WCPL practice we did at Jungle. Him and JP were both like walked up, and it's normal Arnold, and JP was smiling from ear to ear like JP always does. And they're back playing paintball. It was cool to see those guys again. But
dude, that's the best. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, heart, right? People have to have heart, and they just, you know,
the biggest one.
They don't get it. Like they just.
I set times. I set times for our guys to be at the field, right? Say on the field by 8:30. If I show up and I don't see one player that's already on the field at like 8 o'clock, I'm super disappointed. You know, you expect that. That's like how could you not? That is the mindset that it takes to get anywhere in any sport, not just doing the bare minimum of what's asked for you. Like you got to be the one that says, you know what, practice starts at 8:30. I want to be on the field by 8, get a little warmed up, make sure that I'm ready to go. You know, I want a little extra work. Like how can you not want to work harder than the people next to you, but at the same time, you want to succeed more than the people next to you? It doesn't make sense.
Because a lot of people in paintball believe they can do it their own way. Yeah. That's the problem, right? And there's the issue you run into with a lot of players. You know, they think they can drink or smoke or whatever their vice of choice is, but still be able to show up 9 to 5 and put in some hours. Whereas in like Marcelo from day one, you know, like I was in your fucking helmet screaming at you. If we weren't the first one to the field, the last, 10 minutes? Cool. Yeah. All right. Security guard. Keep
Yeah.
walking the field, guys. Hey, we're
Yeah.
leaving. Yeah, that's cool. Like, and finally, after about the third warning where the guy starts like using less words and less vowels, is like, get off the field. And we're like, all right, we're going to leave. You know what I mean? Steakhouse, let's go, boys.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
But you have to have that kind of a mindset. But that's life, right? If you take what we learned, what Tyler, what you learned with Bob as a kid, Marcelo, what we did on Aftermath, and you put that into making paintballs at a paintball factory or what you guys are doing, and you have that totalitarian, like all in, I will not fail mindset, yeah, you're going to become a pro paintball player.
You'll do anything in life.
I stop and I look at like the semi-pro Aftermath 2 years ago or whatever, and the teams that we competed against.
Yeah.
And you stop and you're like, you guys are smoking blunts behind the pit.
Yeah.
You guys aren't scouting teams. And you wonder why you got second or third or fourth place. Right. You're good enough. You just have to sacrifice something to get there, you know? And like for myself, I know I can do it. We all understand the blueprint that have been there. The question now you have to ask yourself is, with kids, life, family, businesses, do you have the time to put in? Because if you do, you'll get the results back. But people in paintball think they can just do it their way. I mean, I see it at WCPL. I see teams that miss Sunday and you're kind of like, well, you showed up late. Your dude's over there high. I mean, it boggles my mind that people don't. And again, you know, like I love all you guys. You guys could call me and be like, Mike, I'm, you know, San Diego Airport. I need a place to stay. Send it. You know what I mean? Like if I'm not home, my lady will come pick you up, like come to the house. But when we get on the field, like I want to decapitate you, right? Like I just, you know, it's not personal. It's just
sports.
And we respect it amongst all of each other. Those of us, like the real ones in the sport, respect it. Like Oliver, all the guys that we've come through, the names that Tyler Mashad, Quincy, all those guys, like it's a level of gangster that a lot of these kids just do not have. And if they can figure out, you know, maybe if they just didn't talk so much and kept their ears and eyes open and watched what Marcelo does and watch what Mouse does and watch what you do and what Ryan does, maybe they would get it. But like for Marcelo to be saying he has to explain to people, yeah, I set practice at 8:30. That was a setup, buddy. You should have been here at 7:30. You should have been on the field at 8. You should have 3 guns on the sideline ready to go. So if there's any issue, just grab another one and go. But these kids don't get it. I mean, kids don't even know how to clean their own guns.
You're right.
You kidding me?
Dude,
like,
and Mike,
crazy.
People don't even know your story, dude. People don't even really know your story. And that's why we're so honored to have you on this show, because you've been in the game, in the trenches, dude, for years. For how many years? I don't even know.
I'm 40 now, and I started when I was, 14, 15?
Oh, my God. Okay, so, yeah, do the math on that and crunch those numbers, because this man has been in the trenches for paintball for a long time, and he has a decorated history as well. You've played with some of the top teams in the world. You've coached some of the arguably the best players in the world, and have a huge you're a big dog in the business industry as well. You know what I mean? So you've really done so much for this industry, and we want to dig into your past and kind of see where your grassroots started with paintball, and like when did you first pick up a paintball gun or hear of paintball? How did it all start for you?
I was out in the back country of San Diego coming back from shooting real guns with my dad.
Yeah.
Drove by a guy that my dad knew that happened to be caretaking a paintball field called Wild Woody's up in Julian.
No shit.
And the owner and my dad hit it off. My dad was a machinist. Around that time, Di had moved from Aaron Carter's shop, I think in LA, down to San Diego originally. My dad got a job as a machinist there when they had first moved down. So I was living at a paintball field as a kid, going to high school.
What?
Yeah, I ended up moving out to the field. And then my dad was a machinist. And, I got to sit there at Di watching like the original Iron Kids come together. Like, wow. Back then it was 10-man, was it Great Western or whatever?
Yeah.
And at one point Todd had said to me, he goes, we might need an extra guy. And I was like, yeah, I've got a team, like doing my own thing. And
Todd Martinez.
Yeah, you
and Cash Money.
And Todd is like single-handed, him and Mike Paxson, I owe my career to, for sure.
Yeah.
Like Todd opened a lot of doors for me as a friend.
Legends, dude. Yeah. Legends.
And I just remember he had mentioned it to me, and all these kids, it was the Iron Kids, right? And I was like, I got my own team, my own squad. I'm riding with my own brand. And then you show up to the event, and these guys had a full tilt blitzkrieg attack coming. Like nobody had seen it in 10-man, right? Because it was very stationary. Get to your spot, talk. And these kids are just, running over you. Like,
yeah. Damn.
It was crazy, So,
that's badass.
So yeah, definitely come up. See, and I think
So when you were at the
10-man
paintball field, you grew up on a paintball field. Were you able to like practice whenever you're on? You took full advantage, I'm sure, of being at the paintball field.
100%. And my dad ended up staying a lot of the time during the week. He would stay down with Aaron Carter at Dye, because Aaron Carter, many people don't know, was a huge influence on what Dye was and became. Like all those barrels, autocockers, like that was Aaron, right? Wow. Anybody can say whatever they want, but we all know Aaron.
Interesting.
Aaron was the driving force behind that company.
Yeah.
And my dad would stay down there, and then on the weekends, you know, a lot of times I would be home alone at the paintball field with the caretaker. Yeah. But I got to play a lot, and it was cool because Aaron Carter helped me out a ton. Oh. I mean, I grew up from him hearing the term, you know, death before dishonor. Yeah. And it's tattooed across my chest now. You know what I mean? Like,
hell yeah.
The original pump guys, like my dad would come home from work with a new, you know, Carter Buzzard pump gun that he had cut up. And I'd be out there playing pump gun in the woods with all those guys. So it definitely helped, right? And growing up with old heads like that, and coming from the original 10-man scene in the woods to what became airball and hyperball, I mean, you just learned, right? Like, and being a young kid, you kept your mouth shut, because back then you get smacked up pretty quick, right?
Dude,
like,
talk to me about the energy. The energy was just different. I mean, we're talking about, we're in the year 2020 now. The energy back then was a little heavier, I think, right?
Well, yeah, because you had guys like, I mean, you grew up with them, like Ron and Kevin from Bob's original guys that, like, outside of paintball, you did not want to get snatched up by, right? Like, Kevin was a real one from the streets out there.
Dude, shout out to Oakland one time.
You know what I mean? Like, and it was just an older vibe. There was older men in the sport that were respectable human beings, right? Like, you grew up, you know, the original Iron Man, Brahim, and all those guys. Like, Shane was a kid. All those guys, Shane, like, who we know as the Iron Men now, really were just kids on the team playing in the front. There was a whole nother Brahim, like from B&M. Like, there was a whole older set, the original Aftershock guys.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
They beat you on the field and beat your ass in the parking lot. Like, for real, for real.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just a whole different mentality. But, and it wasn't like it was people getting beat up every weekend. There was just a level of respect that came with it.
Yeah.
And we would refer to that now as old school. But really, it wasn't old school. It was just respect.
That's right.
You had respect for the people around you. And there was no reason to ever be disrespectful to these older guys, because they were super cool.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you were FNG, right? If you were some new kid on a team. But they had a lot of respect. And it was just, if there was ever, and I don't think there is, a way to mimic what that feeling was like back then, it would be a whole different game, right? Like, dude, it really would be, because it was just, it felt different in your soul.
The nostalgia was insane of paintball coming up at that time.
We didn't realize it, right? Like, we didn't realize it back then, that, you know, it
was like the Mecca.
Then like Aftermath version 1.0, we didn't realize with all those kids on the team how special all of them were. But I think that's Tom Brady, right? We'll be talking about Tom Brady. Once he retires, then we can talk if he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
And I think in paintball, we didn't realize in the moment until those guys were gone. And now we look back at those guys. Yeah. And, you know, Ryan Williams from Aftershock, Danny Love, you know, Gary's still not in paintball, but Gary's around. You see him on social media. But all those original guys, how special they really were.
Timeless, man. Absolutely timeless. Yeah.
And I think I grew up as just a fan of the game, right? Like, I remember when I was on Aftershock, Gary showed up in LA, and somebody had said Gary was coming to help coach, right? And I was like starstruck, right? And I mean, Gary's a super great human being, very humble dude. I mean, he's a beast of a man, right? Like, he snatched it right on up. But like, he was just a cool dude. And you're like, I got a man crush here, dude. Like,
well, dude, paintball is so amazing because we're able to rub shoulders with our idols, you know, like we're
totally. And they're just dudes just like we are, right? Like, they're just normal dudes, but you grow up as a kid and a fan of the game. Yeah. Like, you know, reading the old PCRI magazine and seeing Tom Cole or whoever it was. Yeah. And you're right there with them. Yeah. You know, being friends with these guys. So, and that's the cool thing about paintball, right? Like you said, it's not such a big sport that the pros are unobtainable, that we can't be friends with these guys, you know? So I think that's a cool thing of the sport.
For sure. That's another reason we tell these kids as well, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, you know.
That's it.
Like you said, you gotta make connections in this game. Reach out to your favorite pro. See if if he's a local player in your area. See if you can go get games in with him. If you could do drills. And another thing is do it on their time. That's one thing that I see so much is kids are like, oh well, I went, but I only got like 3 points in, so I just went back and played with my D5 buddies. Wait, hold on. You got to play 3 points with the pros on the field.
Yeah.
Right.
But you decided instead of that, because you weren't getting enough points, you wanted to go back and play with your buddies that aren't helping you get any better. You know, you got to sit there quietly and just wait for your turn and just do the work.
You got to humble yourself.
Yeah.
You got to humble.
Totally.
You know, when you get up to that top level, you realize you're low dog on the totem pole and earn your way up to it. But, you know, the same thing we said, entitlement. A lot of these kids don't want to put the time in, and that's totally cool. If you don't want to put the time in, don't waste my time. Don't play paintball. It's still going to be fun. But if you want to be the 1%ers, because that's what you guys are, or the 1% of the sport, you have to have the 1%er mentality, right? Like it's just, and a lot of these kids, I think they say it, they hear it, they think they know what it is, but they don't really get it. And it's something about the generation gap, because look at all those original Aftermath kids, Marcelo. Like, you think back through all of them, I mean, a good half of them either became professional paintball players or became professional badasses. Like in real life, like whatever it was, they really became the real ones, you know. And it was just, they were born and destined to be something, whatever that was. But these days you got guys that don't want to put the time in, you know.
Yeah, I give it all up to my elders, man. Like, seriously, I've had so many amazing influences in my life, from you, Mike, obviously, to Bob Long. Shout out to the Twisted Factory crew and all the teams that I've played with in between. You know, there's so many elders that I've been so grateful to work my ass off for and really care about the whole organization and the process of everything for. And when you do that, you're able to build connections that are timeless and last a lifetime. And it gives you those gears that you're talking about. You got to have those gears, and you got to get your ass beat, and you got to go through the trenches to learn these invaluable things. So anytime you can struggle, go for that struggle, because it's going to teach you more than you would ever have in the comfortability of turning down the opportunity or going the other way. Like, we really need to embrace the struggle a little bit more these days, so that we can take the most of all these big opportunities we're presented with right now.
Yeah, you learn from the struggle, right? Like, rough. We've all had those weekends of practice where we just got beat on. And then you show up in match one, you're out there just putting it on people because the reality was those dudes probably were cheating a little bit. The paint was bouncing, whatever it was. But now that there's referees on the field, and we came in a little more humble than coming in a little bit fat and lazy.
Yeah. And you learn that way, though, too. You know, if you don't get exposed at all in practice and you show up to the event, all it takes is for a team to show you something that you just simply didn't see, you know, because everything was working, and you might not have an answer for it. Those practices that you get your ass whooped, those are the best ones. I always feel the best going into tournaments after really bad practices, you know. It's like, okay, well, I guess it's only got to go up from here, right?
But you can feel the emotion levels different too, right? Like, you come in where it's like, man, last weekend was rough. Got a lot of sore ones on me still. And you come in just a little, and maybe that's just something we all have to do, is check ourselves and just humble ourselves a little bit, right? It's part of being a pro. But yeah, you're totally right.
For sure. Yeah. You're hitting on it there too, dude. Yeah. Don't have a big ass head coming in either. You know, you gotta realize that everybody's got paintball guns out there, and they will shoot you quick. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's trying to win. Everyone has the same passion and the same grit to get things done. So who wants it more, and who's going to do the extra things is who's going to walk away with those gold things at the end, you know?
Totally.
Without a doubt. You look at the teams that win, right? X Factor, you guys, Impact. I mean, anybody like on the Dynasty roster, to where you guys are, you could say Marcelo's had a quiet event, or Tyler's had a quiet event, or Blake's had a quiet event. But man, turn your back for just a split second, and you're going to feel it. Like, you're going to get posterized. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. Like, I don't think a lot of people get that. That's what's funny, you know, for all of us on the inside of it. Yeah. You look at people say, oh, you know, Marcelo, I'm sure you catch it. Tyler, you catch it. Like, people talk shit, and you're kind of like, you're like, yeah. I mean, I laugh about it, right? Because for me, it's personal, right? Because like, Mouse has a tough go, or Marcelo has a tough go, or Dalton, or whoever it was. And you're like, really? Because that dude will split your wig to the white meat. Like, don't kid yourself. And you know, like people would talk trash about whoever, and I'll be like, man, I got 500, 1,000. How much you want to put down? Like,
let's go.
We'll show up at the local field. Let's go like best out of 10. And like, I'll put any amount of money on one of my old boys because I know the heart and the passion that everybody has. And a lot of people don't. The toughest step is semi-pro to pro. And a lot of people don't get that. Like it is.
Yeah.
Every time I've taken the step with a team, it's been like, okay, listen, boys, we got to be out every weekend. And we're out there and it's still not enough of a grounded, humbling experience. Because once you get there, it's like, you know, look at the aftermath 2 years ago, you know, go to Vegas, get whatever, 3rd, 4th place, and then proceed to not win a match for 3 or 4 events, right? Like, it really comes like that.
Shout out to the Aftermath banner in my background one time too. This is, you know, we're all part of the Aftermath family, one of the best camps. And Mike, I think you're literally the best coach ever to bring players up and prepare them for professional division. I can honestly say there's only a handful of you guys. You're definitely one of them. And it's
hands down, it's the best. Nobody, the resume speaks for itself. It's the best. I'm not saying it just because I was part of that. You could remove myself and Tyler from that list, and still the players that, you know, Rainey, Mouse, Dalton, you know, and there's a bunch of others that still came up too. But I mean, it's unreal. No one else has done it like that. Not that
I got lucky though, right? Like I got blessed. I mean, like when we started Aftermath, it's funny you guys were talking about that, doing drills with young kids. Aftermath was built because I got into the off season. Gap, you know, which was Fraser's dad's paint company, gave us so much paint that we could play 7 days a week if we wanted to. And, you know, all the guys after World Cup, you know, I'd never been on a pro team like Dynasty, right? The greatest thing to ever walk the earth. And
especially in that time too, by the way.
Right? They were just good. All of a sudden everybody was gone. Ryan was gone. Oliver was gone. Everybody was gone, and it was like, man, I need to get a lot better real quick or I'm getting cut, right? Like I'm the 3rd string quarterback on this team. So, you know, I got all these kids together, and that's what Aftermath started as, was get 2 Thunder kids out there is what they started as, and do 2-on-1s until I can beat 2 kids, and then we'll go 3.
So
and
not
Thunder,
that I was Thunder Kids is the original name of like what became Aftermath?
Yeah, a lot of those kids, Ronnie Filipponi, a lot of those kids came from that camp. Justin Stanbaugh and Philly and a lot of those kids came into Aftermath. And then quickly it started evolving because, I mean, the talent level at that time when we built it, there was so many young kids out there, like Mouse. Mouse was just a young kid at SC. I had no clue who he was. LJ, Justin Schwartz, HK sales rep. Back then he was on, I don't know if it was Dynasty or, I mean, he walked up and I said, hey, you know, if you know any kids that want to try out for a team, I'm building I just want to get all the local good kids together, make something cool. And he walks up, he's like, there's this kid, Mouse. And I said, what up? You know, shook his hand, whatever. I'm like, I'm down on the, you know, X hyperball field down there. And cool. And 10 minutes later, he comes like dragging his little 70-pound ass up. And then Mouse was on the team, you know? But like,
dude, he's a beast now. The metamorphosis of Mouse has been amazing, dude.
Yeah, it's unreal.
It's unreal. He's a monster.
He was so small that like when he would dive, he would just like Velcro to the ground. Like he had no momentum. You remember the one time, Marcella, he was on a bunker at SC Village.
No,
and we jumped.
Redlands.
Oh, no.
Redlands.
7-man.
You guys bounced him?
Oh, and broke his arm.
No
way. Right before Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
Dude. Oh, that was – he launched, though, like 150 feet in the air.
It was so far. It was one of those ones as he was on the way up, you're like, fuck, this is it. And, of course, he doesn't go straight up and down on the balloon. It's like up at an angle, and his arm landed underneath him and snapped it. And then I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to have to tell this kid's mom that we're horsing around. And, I mean, I think it was his forearm. It snapped it like a twig.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Shout out to Glady.
Glad he's recovered well off that, because that's crazy. Oh,
yeah, he was just a kid. He was so small.
What a stunner, dude! Mouse is obviously one of the best players in the world. He's just a killer out there, man. He's got the mindset. That's what we talk about. If you were to,
he's got a special mindset, right?
Yeah.
Like, out of all the players, it was funny with him because I've coached him on many different incarnations, the Iron Men and different teams like that, Dynasty. And it was funny with Mouse because while a lot of the kids, like Marcelo, knows what I'm thinking as he looks into my eyes.
Yeah.
But like Mouse, a lot of times I wouldn't even have to tell him. You know, we were 6-6 in a match, and it's like, what are we going to do to get this win? Mm-hmm. And I would be walking out there, and Mouse would just be like, you know, snake on the hot shooting, and it would be like, yep. And we're going to put so and so out here, yep. Like, and I had already thought that's what we're. we could either throttle back and pocket, or we're going to go balls to the wall here.
Yeah.
But Mouse would already know what my next thought was before I thought it. It was just interesting with him, like,
absolutely.
He was very disciplined. Like, he would do what he was told.
Yeah.
Where, other guys want to do it their way, which is, everybody had respect for the word, but Mouse, he definitely took a piece of my brain with him. You know what I mean? And even to this day, like, there's Impact will be playing and, we're standing out there just shooting the shit. I mean, I totally respect that team, and Dave is his boss and his coach, and he respects Dave as his coach. But we'll just be shooting the shit. And it's kind of like, if that was you, I knew you would have done this or you would have done that. And it's like,
I think we all kind of carry that, because the way that I teach paintball and the way that I try to play the game is so much still of a lot of the concepts that you had always instilled into us. But I think it's honestly the most right and correct way to play.
Hindsight, right? Yeah. Hindsight. Once we get past it, and like Marcelo and I butted heads a million times, but it's not out of a lack of love. It's out of a lack of, you really get two alpha males in a room together, and by definition, two alphas don't always, see things the same, because they have unique mindsets and how they want to do things. And it's not arrogance talking. It's truly a kill, like Kobe Bryant. Like, you watch now that he's passed, all this video on him. And it's not that the man was there. For a long time, I wasn't the biggest Kobe fan. And then you watch now and you're like, no, this dude was just a gangster like that. Like
Mamba. Yeah.
And it was Mamba mentality. And so many of these young kids, when they were younger, I didn't get it, that they had evolved. We had built the Pentium processor, but Marcelo and Mouse and all these guys' brains had already taken what I had given them and stepped up to a whole different level. And then as a coach, I had to catch up, like, man, this isn't ABCs of paintball. This is A squared times B squared times C squared. Yeah. And these guys have really stepped up their game. And it was good, right? When you have that much talent together, I'm pushing Marcelo as a kid. Then Marcelo's doing stuff to make me step my game. And you come home and you're sitting on that plane flight home and in silence thinking to yourself for the weeks to come, like, the fucking dude was right. You know what I mean? Like 100%, like, it's, but these kids had all really become smart. It's funny, last year I coached Aftermath at Cup and we're playing Impact, and it comes down like a 4-on-3. Impact only had 3 guys and Mouse was one of them.
Yeah.
And it was like J-Rab and somebody else. And I'm sitting there in the pit and I'm like, fuck, we're fucked. Like, we're in trouble, you know what I mean? And it's funny with J-Rab too, right? Because when I lived with my dad at Aaron Carter's house for a while, Steve, Justin, and Brandon also lived at Aaron Carter's house.
No way.
So Justin and I go way back. We actually played a 3-man one time. Back then, Rab was on the original Houston Heat team, not the current Houston Heat team, the original OG Houston Heat, and let me borrow his auto mag to play a 3-man at Mr. Paintball, where the old Raza field was. And somebody stole the gun while we were accepting our first place trophy. So then I had to go back and tell Steve why somebody stole his auto mag, which, I mean, Tyler, that's like getting Bob Long's original gun stolen. Like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, the money's not the issue. It's how to tell Scuba Steve that I just got his gun stolen, But it's crazy. Like, I'm watching these guys do their thing and Mouse is putting it together and it's like, oh man, somebody needs to run down the field and blow his head off, take the penalty, because the melee is the only way we're winning this one. And it was funny because, like, Mike Mason, I had it out, it was last year, because he's like, you've given up. And I kind of looked at him and I was like, I can't, like, I don't know what you want me to coach here. Like, Mouse, J-Rab, and who? Justin Cornell or somebody? Brandon Cornell? Another kid that came up through the camp? Right. Like, they're just better than our guys. Yeah, they got 3, we have 4, and we have all the 50s, and watch what happens. Oh, yep, there's Mouse, 1 ball, 2 balls.
Yeah.
Point. You
know what? One thing you touched on about Mouse that I think is really important, I think a lot of the players that came up through your camp share this, is the discipline. A lot of the better front players in the league, they kind of go a little off script sometimes. And while Mouse has these insane highlight reels, he is very disciplined, and that is what separates the really good pro players from the elite pro players, is being able to have that controlled aggression, good calculation, and making these insane moves that do seem off the script, but it's very calculated.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to build a team, if I was somebody in paintball that was coming into the sport, and let's say you had a huge checkbook, man, if Mouse isn't one of the 3 dudes you take first, as a general manager, you've probably taken a wrong step. I'm not taking anything else away from anybody else, but I'll tell you what, when Antonio Brown was at his highlight, the running backs, Bell, everybody had their best seasons because he is like Mouse's ability to stretch the field
absolutely
makes everybody else around him so much better.
Absolutely.
And like when Spica went over there, it's like, man, if Mouse can become that hybrid 2 role behind Spica and work with him, and there's going to be layouts where somebody's trading bodies down and Mouse is left, man, it's scary, right? Like
percentages go way up. Yeah,
he's disciplined, right? You're not like, he's not going to get to the 50 and shove his head over the bunker and you're going to get a lucky kill on him. You're really going to have to go earn it. And again, you never want to say in paintball, Mouse or Marcelo or Tyler is the best player, because the second you put that crown on one head, somebody knocks it off, because there's so much talent in the league. So when I look at things, it's always top 3, top 5 guys that I would build a team around.
Agreed.
But man, if Mouse ain't on that list, if Archie's not on that list, like, and you look
you're
at
messing up.
Ryan, all these like, but Mouse is such a unique one. If he wants to be there and he is at the top of his game.
Yeah. It's all, you gotta show up. You know what I'm saying? And you're right, Mike. The league is stacked right now. I think it's arguably more stacked than it's ever been.
At the top end, at the top end, it definitely is. The bottom half is not.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's so hard too, Mike. We talk about this all the time as well. A lot of the pros that are at the top of the league have been at the top of the league for 15 years. How do the players coming into the league catch up? How do they cannot get that experience right now. It's near impossible.
No, they can't. And the next problem you run into, if we're going to call all the truths, is that the owners at the top that have the big checkbooks destroy those younger teams. The only reason Aftermath was allowed to survive was because Dynasty did not gut us.
Yep.
And the Ironmen, like you well know, Marcelo, because you went there with Mouse, the Ironmen had no problem, gutting our team. And that's not, I'm not putting anybody down for it, but I'm just simply saying in the league, if Rosati's doing good and then he goes to Impact, that hurts NYX. Not that NYX still isn't a good team, and not that they don't talk trash with the best of them and come up with some neat things like dumping Kane out, all that. And I love all those guys. But it hurts when you really stop and think about it. It hurts. And I'm not putting any of those, the top 5 teams that do it, I'm not putting anybody down for it. But when we talk about, when the PSP was alive, they would invite me to the year-end meetings. I was never an owner, had no say.
Dude, you've always just been such a damn boss in this industry, bro.
But I would sit there, and it was funny. And Marcelo knows this because he knows Dave well.
Yeah.
I would sit there, and I expected to hear Dave Youngblood of Die and Ironman say, "We want the Ironmen to win." And Dave literally said, he goes, "The best thing for paintball is for 5 teams to win 5 PSPs out throughout the year." And it's not the same. He's like, Dynasty, All-Americans, Aftershock. He didn't even name the Ironmen. Like, he didn't even name his own team. He just said, this is what's best for paintball. And the problem we have is a lot of these young teams have no ability to build a roster and to get 2 or 3 seasons under their belt without somebody coming along and pulling the cork on them. I mean, the closest we have right now is probably AC. That's a pretty decently well in-house groomed team through Paulie, which, Paulie, Todd, myself are probably the greatest college coaches in the game, right? Guys that are going to take young kids and get them ready for the next level. Paulie is a Nick Saban, right? He has the ability to do that.
I totally didn't mean to leave Paulie out in that as well. Actually, he even helped us on Aftermath back in the day. Yeah,
he was part of the camp too. But it's very tough for these young teams to get traction, or even Uprising. They're good up there in the Northwest. They don't have a lot of resources and stuff. But then one guy goes to a DMG or to this team or to whatever team they go to, and it's just, how do you build? How does Aftermath build when guys are getting offered $20,000 and they're paying for their own flights on this team? So it's a tough spot, right?
Totally.
And nobody's wrong for it. It's just, of course, how are those kids going to catch it?
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast.
Is there, Mike, do you think if you were in charge of making all these decisions, would you put any kind of cap? Do you think it's good that there's at least some of these teams able to, give players a paycheck? Because I go back and forth on this, because in one token, You know, I would hate to put a cap and not have that opportunity for players to say, damn, I can make 40 grand if I get good enough, you know, and I do get picked up by one of the 5 teams. But on the other token, it does kill teams in certain markets, which is also, you know, not a good thing. I don't know. What's your
Well,
opinion?
I mean, the question, the answer to that is, are we playing for today or are we playing for tomorrow? Is this a long-term game that we're looking at? Because long-term, and listen, I see industry perspectives all the time, you know, like
totally
people need to sell paint today and they shouldn't cut stores and fields out, and they want to blame us for it. But I can point at every manufacturer. They all do it. So are we playing for the long-term play or the short-term play? Yeah, you're right. If some kid gets offered 20, 30 grand to go play 5 paintball tournaments a year, that might change his life. So you don't want to tell somebody they can't do it. When you talk about the long-term health, and then what is the long-term health of having a couple of teams able to win and pay players and the rest cannot?
Yeah. So,
because you get to a point where teams don't feel like they can compete anymore. And when they can't compete,
there they go.
That's it.
There they go.
They just, when they have no hope, that's, you know, and I'm not saying we have to give false hope and false promise, but I mean, it's becoming, and what's next? What's next? Somebody with a regional league starts a national league like myself and says, we're not going to take the top 8 pro teams. We're just going to take the guys that get the shit kicked out of them. And somebody's going to get to finally win because.
Mike's got ideas brewing.
No, it's not. But like, why do they keep supporting you guys?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
like the divisional teams, why do they keep supporting? I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying there's got to be value in it for everybody. And for the pro teams, if you don't got 150, 200 grand for players, that's the real number, right? I mean, we all 3 of us know what guys make. We know what A-Rod got. Like, really, we know what Mouse gets.
Yep.
We know what Houston Heat got. I mean, within 10, right? We know. I mean, everybody.
Of course.
That's another one, right? Yeah. Everybody fudges their numbers way high. I got 70 and 38 guns or something like that.
Like, okay.
You know?
We've been in these conversations too.
Right? But on the other side of it, you know, if you don't have 200 grand for salary, and how do you justify that as a guy coming into the league?
Right.
There's not enough 100 millionaires coming in to support that.
So where do you think we're headed? Where do you think pro paintball is headed in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, what's this landscape looking like right now? Obviously, it's kind of hard to judge that in the paradigm that we're in. But you know,
ask the 2 guys writing all the paychecks, Tyler.
Yeah, that's the truth, right there,
though, right? Like, that's the real deal of it. Is go ask the 2 or 3 guys writing all the checks, the owners, you know, the guys at the top of the NXL. And thank God we have them. But you want to talk about where paintball is going, wherever they decide to tell you guys you're going. If not, I mean, it's going to go back to tribal warfare, right? It's going to go back to my block versus your block. Modesto versus, you know, the Bay Area. Like, that's what it's going to go back to.
And that's where it came. That's kind of how it started. You know, it was like that.
And we had no problems with it back then. Yeah. But now we are where we are. I mean, you know, it's so tough, right? And I know you guys ask honest questions for honest answers. Yeah. And I mean, you really have to stop and ask yourself, like, I sat in, again, I go back to the PSP days, and I sat in Youngblood's office, YB as we all know him. And I saw the numbers from World Cup one year, and that wasn't Go Sports back then. I forgot what it was called.
Paintball Access.
But it was Paintball Access, and it was free, right? It was anybody could watch it. And I want to say there was 200,000 to 300,000 unique IP addresses that had come in, right? Which is a lot of people. I mean, and it even had countries, Ghana and fucking Korea's, and you're like, wow, people all around the world are watching it. And YB was pretty straight with it, right? He's like, we would need 2 to 3 times those numbers for ESPN the Ocho or whatever it is to really to want to advertise on here. So as we talk about outside influences coming in wanting to pay paintball, I got to be honest, like, I don't see the numbers there right now for Nike to come in or for somebody to come in. Does that mean paintball's not going somewhere? No, it doesn't. It just means we have to be realistic. Is it good for us? And I understand, like, the NXL's in a really tough spot. If they don't go to cool locations and big grass fields and stuff like that, people are going to throw eggs at them all day long. But how is that really helping? Like, how is that helping? Like, when we would go to Rock Hill, to Rob Stodinger's field, or to Rennick Miller's field, we helped improve the infrastructure in that area. So when we all left, those divisional teams, you know, and PBC would be able to have more, you know, Rob's field was nice, right? Like they had the penalty boxes with the pea gravel around it so you wouldn't slip coming off the gate. Yeah. But how does that help us going and spending all this money to go to a grass field in Polk County? I don't know how it helps. And listen, you want to talk to somebody, Tom Cole's a smart guy to talk to, because a lot of the things he said in the meetings that I was privy to in the NXL, you're like, yeah, like Tom is not wrong. But how do you tell these every year the NXL or the PSP comes up with a rule change? Yeah. And man, they are catching hand grenades. And then the funny part is 2 events into the season, people are like, 10.5 balls, greatest thing you ever did. Yeah. And you're like, man, were you the one sending like the ransom letter that you're going to kill his dog or something like that? Like,
dude, and Tommy is super smart. If you didn't hear, he actually allowed sidearms on the pro field now, which is pretty amazing. So we're moving forward. Yeah.
We had him on the show, Mike. Not sure if you knew that, but Tyler sent him like 3 emails beforehand. Got him on the show to give in and say, yes, the pros are going to have sidearms on the field. I just don't know how off, but just a little sidearm. If your gun goes down, you could pull out a little like 7-piece. You can still go get a little mic pick too.
Hey, I'll be waiting for that, Tyler. Waiting for you to bounce over the top of one of those bricks or whatever and put a 50 cal in somebody.
Yeah, dude, it's coming. I can't wait. We got all these new developments on holsters. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. HK will be coming out with a cool one for you guys. But where paintball's going, I mean, listen, at the field level, there's a lot of people playing paintball. Exactly. I live out here in Temecula, Murrieta. ASG's up the road. It's the closest field. Jungle Island's pretty close. And it's crazy hot right now, like 110 out there. Hotter than I care to ever be. And there's still I pull up and I'm expecting to see like 23 cars in the parking lot, and there's 200-300 deep. They're out on the road.
It feels like the old SC Village, actually. The few times that I've gone out to that ASG park since Vegas, essentially, a lot of people are playing there. You're right.
Yeah, a lot of people are. So how do we take this and go? And you know, I mean, is a webcast really that needed? Listen, I'm not putting anybody down that's any part of it, but how much money are we spending a year there? Would it be wiser to go buy airball fields and hand them out to all the local fields and watch how many kids, and you know, in 2 or 3 years, if you have an extra 100 airball fields, you will see an influx of people coming into tournament paintball because they have more places to be able to play at.
That's the real long game. Yeah. Absolutely. Because it would take a
long game.
Dude, I love your outlook, dude. Your outlook is so on point, Mike. And I love how you just put it so simply. Is it the short game or the long game? What are we doing here? But
we talk about growing paintball, but how are we growing paintball by doing this? Like, and you got to pay $12 a month to watch. Again, I think Maddie should be part of it. He is the Morgan Freeman of our paintball game. I love Maddie. I love Maddie off of the field, even though we don't talk all the time. But how the money that's being spent, could it better be spent other ways to help other fields and to get more? I mean, Victory Paintball Park, Franz Field's nice. I think I've given him 2 fields. Like old WCPL, the white Empire, the yellow one. Not that Fran needed my help, but I know that's a good place to send one to.
For sure.
We've given bought fields for the Pirates up at Velocity. We bought a field up there because we needed new bunkers up there. So that's something my company did. GI and HK, GI has done it for a long time. Valken's done it. HK has done it. But I mean, like you said, Tyler, you go out there to Wild West and you guys have air ups out there. Brent lives out there that makes those bunkers. So you do see fresh bunkers out there. But if you had an extra 100 airball fields instead of all this pro money, I just and again, if I say that, it sounds like I'm putting people down. I'm not. There's no negativity to what I'm saying. It's just
how can we, that's right. You're trying to boost paintball, bro. I mean, really, that's what you are obviously in the industry as well and want to have a thriving industry for a long time. That's what we all want to be a part of. So how can we do that?
Well, and for myself, my small paint manufacturing company, we're at capacity. Like we sell, we don't make for one of the big guys anymore. We still sell every case. I'm not worried about it for me.
Well, you guys are crushing it.
Really want to talk about growing paintball. That's how you grow it. You know what I mean? And
more fields, more play.
And like WC, event 1 before COVID hits this year, we have 107 teams signed up. We got to go to Victory. Not that we have to go there, because I love Fran, Nikki, Sean, everybody there. It's the only field in Southern California that has 3 turf fields.
Yeah.
We can't go anywhere else.
Right.
So now we're down to 2. Like ASG has 2, Jungle has 2, Glen
Mhm.
Forster at Ambush has 2. We can only do 70-some teams over 3 days there. If we go back to 100 teams, we have nowhere to go. So then you wonder, is it going back to a Southern California field that can build its infrastructure and have the ability to host an NXL and these large regionals? Does that help?
Yeah.
Because, them going to an NXL helps the NXL, but teams playing 52 weekends out of the year is what helps the industry. That's what sells HK's gear, which ultimately pays you guys. It sells Field One guns.
Yeah.
And it's tough, and I
right.
feel like the industry is definitely downsized. If anybody says the industry is growing, I don't believe them. Like there are more fields of Junior and Modesto.
Yeah.
Junior and Gina are the only 2 that have grown a store into Sacramento. Every other store is closing down.
Yeah.
So we have to admit we're retracting a little bit as an industry, but how do we continue to do smart things and help really grow the sport? And I hear it all the time, grow the sport. And I toss my phone. I'm like, it's like the meme of the guy smoking a cigarette, just looking like he's bummed out. Like, are you?
Hey, huge shout out to Modesto Extreme Paintball. Everybody out there, I miss you guys. I live out in Arizona now, but man, that's my family out there.
Totally. But we talk about growing it. I don't know at the current rate how you grow it, how it is.
We got to reinvent, man. We got to stay creative, like you said, dude. Good ideas. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the idea of separating the pro division from the rest of the divisions in general, and you just have Go Sports events, and that's its own thing. It's not necessarily part of the league. That way you don't need a big park. You can go to any of these regional paintball fields. You could go to Victory Paintball Park, set up shop and because I would hate to completely get rid of a webcast. I think there's a lot of value in some sort of, coverage of these pro games for sure.
But does it need to be live, or can it be secondary recorded like Paulie and them are doing with the one-on-ones down there,
right,
and then spruced up? Again, I'm not saying we shouldn't have access to it. Just again, how much does a live webcast cost with all the people and all the money, the salaries going out? I just, and if we're not going to get Nike next year or Doritos or somebody like that.
Yeah.
I think that was another thing you touched on, Mike. I totally agree. I think we have, even with ESPN, these are things that are out of our ballpark, and we shouldn't even be looking at those. You know what I mean? But I do think in this day and age with the internet, I think there's a ton of smaller scale, whether it's an energy drink company, maybe like Bang Energy, just not quite a Red Bull or Coca-Cola, anything like that. These smaller companies that would be interested in helping fund, the webcast, or maybe a league or a team or something like that. And we, should look into that and pursue that. And it doesn't need to be on ESPN. We can provide it. Hopefully, eventually it'd be great if we could provide it for free, or at least after we have the live show. If people pay for a live pay-per-view or something afterwards, we should be able to give as much of it away for free as possible, so we could just get eyes on it. That's how things go viral. We need people to see it.
Yeah, no, 1 second. Love you, buddy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Boys are taking off.
Dude, Mike is the best dad in the world. This guy. How many kids do you have? You have 4?
I have 2, but my lady has 3 others, so we have 5 total at the house.
Yeah, you guys got a big squad, and you're always
the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. You guys are always having fun.
Always getting it.
Yeah.
It's funny, for so many kids in the house, you would think it'd be a madhouse, but it's.
You got 3 kids, don't you, Mike? Caitlin?
Yeah, I have my daughter, but obviously she's gone her own way in life, to be quite honest. She's
I see.
She's pretty headstrong, heading in her own direction.
I wonder where she got that from.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah,
I hear you.
Kids.
Yeah,
kids.
For real.
But no, Marcelo, you're not wrong. Like, you're not wrong about. I'm not saying there's not a value in it. But
right, of course.
But like when we look at how the PSP did it, and everything was free, and they had however many, and now we're paying for it, and we have how many?
Right.
Which direction are we going? Are we going in a good direction? Are we not going in a good direction?
I hear you. Yeah.
It's a valid point, absolutely. And kind of to switch subjects for a second, got the whole squad. Everybody tune in to the YouTube channel. Yeah, we got Mike showing love.
Young Bryce, dude.
Yeah, he's
Bryce.
Huge, dude. Your kids are getting
monster.
big.
I'm lucky. He still comes and gives me a hug and a kiss. You know,
dude. I remember when I was on Aftermath and I was just a kid, how small they were. It's crazy to see them so big now.
You're telling me. I don't feel that old, and then I look in the mirror and I see all the gray hairs that I think are blonde.
You're like, oh man, what's happening here?
Definitely.
So I want to kind of switch gears and dive into your paintball career. You've played for Dynasty and you've coached Dynasty. I mean, I think you're one of the only players besides Rusty. I think you and Rusty are, obviously the only two, which is pretty crazy. And can you kind of give us like a discography of your teams, how you started and how long it took you to go pro and kind of that storyline of your career?
I mean, to go back to the beginning would be a long time, but the Bushwhackers is really where I got. That was the 10-man days where we had amateur A, amateur B. I got on the Bushwhackers. Bushwhackers, Ron was a great guy. He helped a lot of people get in. It was a place you could go even if you weren't that good, which I definitely wasn't. And you could get your feet wet and then build up. And that's why I had said Paxton had helped me so much. He was like Ron. I think Ron was his other dad. Like the two, Paxton and him, man, they would stand at practice with their autocockers and shoot each other until they ran out of paint. And nobody would flinch, right? And you're like, that's gotta hurt, dude. Like, there's just no purpose to that. Like, just and walking at each other, and they're not like yelling or screaming; they're like giggling about it. And you're like, "Hey, miss me with that." Like, I don't need no part of all that chronic pink all over my face. Dude, but so I got on there, and within a couple events, the team had melted down as the Bushwhackers would do, and I got moved up to the #1 team. We made it through the whole season playing 10-man. I think we missed the cut in amateur A by a point, like 3 different events. It was a tough season. And the next year was 7-man. Yeah. And, this 7-man thing was coming. And
so
Ron
this was like early
I missed
2000s. Somewhere in there.
When it started on the Huntington Beach, on the beach. And, we had struggled in amateur A, and Kilborn is Kilborn, right? Again, nothing but love for that guy. He shows up to practice one day and he goes, "We're going pro." And I'm thinking to myself, hey, Ron, we didn't make Sunday once last year. I was like, you think it's a good idea? All right. And he's like, well, it was always been the 2 or 3 guys on the 10-man that have kind of hurt us. If we go down to 7 guys with Fish and Paxton and you, like, we'll be good. And I'm like, rest in peace. Like, I'm like, all right, man, like, we'll go, So we went to Huntington Beach. I think we got 3rd or 4th place. We made the top 4. I mean,
there we go.
Had some good games. Beat Dynasty on like a 3-on-1 or something like that. Like, it was really good. And we got into the finals, and we, like all young teams getting there, we just we had lost our drive. But that's that got me my feet. That's where I really went pro, was at the 7-man. And then the next event was Vegas. I think we took top 3 or 4 again, lost to Joy on the finals field. And one of the guys and I had a pretty severe disagreement. I just didn't think he was a good paintball player. And Ron, that was like Ron's golden boy. And I guess they decided to cut me, right? I had no clue, right? I get a call that somebody's like, I heard you got cut. And I'm like, fuck, did I?
What?
So I reached out to Todd, and Todd and I were boys. And Todd got me on Shock Tech, and at that point it was Maxim factory team.
That's right.
Keeley was on the team, Mahoney, Bag of Donuts.
Damn.
Dude.
So I got on that team and then made it through, because that was middle of the season, made it through the rest of the year, got on to Aftershock, and then went to Mardi Gras that year with Aftershock, there was 3 teams I always wanted to play for, right? Dynasty, Ironmen, and Aftershock. And I got to play for Shock at that point. That's where I got into the NXL. We were playing against like Bob's guys, watching them shoot left-handed with one finger at like 38 balls a second.
I'm not sure what was going on there.
Totally legal. Totally legal.
And then Bob's sitting there being like, I swear to God, there's nothing in these guns. And I'm like,
dude, hey,
Chris Lasoya like this.
Just wow.
Just as fast as that halo would spin.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
And those things were pumping out 25 balls to 30 balls a second, dude.
They were pumping out the pain.
Dude, it was crazy.
You see some old pictures from the NXL days of players that got shot, probably just running through a lane or something. Just
half a second.
Lit up, dude. Lit up, 15, 20 shots. Like, that's what it was like when we were kids, Tyler. You know?
Right.
Like,
dude,
we were little kids.
I was practicing against these monsters every weekend. These monsters were shooting these guns at me every weekend.
You thought long and hard about going down the highway because it was fitting to get real.
Dude, for sure.
There's like half the bunkers on the field too, so there's a lot of gaps.
But I had gotten there. Todd had gone back in the off season to Dynasty. And again, Todd was my boy. I had made it a while with Shock. And it just, with Todd gone, flying out there, it was difficult. You know, being in San Diego, having kids at that point. Yeah. It just was rough. And like I said, one weekend I got a call from Todd and they needed bodies. We had kind of been talking about it, but I had my boy Fish, my boy Mini Mike. Not that we were a package deal, but I love playing with those
guys
dudes.
Rolled. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they were my guys. And I didn't want to bail on them. Yeah. And at that point, Fish had gotten into some legal trouble at Redlands Paintball. He had smashed somebody in the head. Yeah. So he was out, and it was me and Mini Mike, and they said they would take both of us. So we got on a plane, like I said, on a Saturday, flew to Bob's, made the team. Funniest story. I tell this story sometimes, and it just is a funny story that I like to tell. So we play Sunday. They say we make the team, and we're driving back to San Diego from Oakland. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll ride back, right? I would rather fly, but okay. So we're in the van, and we're getting all the sizes together. And somebody asked me my pant size. I think back then I was a 34, because JT was a 34, 36, whatever. Yeah. And I go 34, you know, and Angel looks up and he goes, get him a set of 36s. And I'm like, oh, they run a little small, right? Like, kind of makes sense. Yeah. And Angel goes, no, so when you grow some fucking balls, you'll feel the fit.
Oh, come on.
Angel's an OG, too.
Just walked right. And Angel was always a good dude to me, right? Like, was nothing, even when we see each other to this day. But I was like, all right. Okay. And, you know, I went from being a big shark in a little pond to being a guppy in Dynasty's pond. Yeah.
And, dude. And the time, just so everybody listening out there knows, when Mike was on Dynasty was the Mecca days of, like, these were some of the biggest times for the whole lineage of this team. You know, it's crazy times.
Yeah, it was crazy. You know, I get on the team. My first event's Nemacolin. We play the Russians, and the Russians beat us. They beat us at Nemacolin, and you know, at that point, I don't think the Russians' game was that advanced, but they definitely were just tough human beings. Right. So we had come home, and it was like, we got to step our game. But then we went to World Cup and put it on them pretty good, and won World Cup that year. But that's where, like, that whole rivalry had started. Shit. It was crazy, man. Like, I remember being in the penalty box in Nemacolin, because, you know, the back center guy always got thrown in there. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, like, watching, and I'm watching the Russians just destroy us. And it was like, fuck, man, like, we really got to step our game up. And, again, they just played great. And the Russians are great players, right? Back then. But, I mean, they looked.
Dude, they're like you said, tough, just tough dudes.
Dudes are shooting like angels with eggs on them, and those weren't like the cool gun to shoot back then. That was just the Russian style, like wearing like the most goofy stuff. Another funny one with the Russians, right? Like, and I've never had anything but respect for their whole staff, top to bottom.
For sure,
but you know,
100%.
Not a surprise to you guys. Like, I'm a pretty emotional player, right? And I'm pretty sure I would fight anybody on the field if it came to it. And you know, being in the back center back then with the guns just completely chain guns, they'd be walking off the field and I'd just be following them off the field. Like, as long as there wasn't a pressing job that I had to do, I'd be like,
for sure.
Smacking them in the side of the head.
Well, it honestly, it makes it hard for them to clean up. It's like, it's such a, you know.
So I thought, and I would run by their pit. My eyes would be, I mean, we've all seen my
popping
eyes
out of your head.
Because I was ready. Like, we'll cut the net and just get it. You know what I mean? And, like, one thing I realized with those guys, you could never get under their helmet. Yeah. You couldn't. Like, 23 balls to the side of the head, dude smoking a cigarette,
just chilling
his head off, maybe gets a new goggle. And I'm like, man, if somebody had shot me like that, I'd be climbing over the net. You know what I mean? But I get, and, you know, I kind of learned something from those guys, right? Like, their level of professionalism. Like, they had come so far to fight against Dynasty. And it was a maturing moment. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But those dudes and being able to be there for that was awesome. And, you know, I made it a couple more seasons. I think I played the Home Depot event, 7 or 8. Aftermath was coming up. And I just realized, like, my body, not that if I wanted to go get in the gym and be in shape, I think I could still play to this day. But the reality was it was just taking a toll on me.
Dude, like, one of my favorite stories, I just got to interject real quick, is you did this multiple times at our practices. This is long after you retired, Mike. So you're just over there with a clipboard, T-shirt, shorts, pair of goggles, no headgear. And we'd be doing drills or playing games, and anytime somebody couldn't shoot someone off their break, he'd be like, give me your fucking gun. Watch, I'm going to show you how it's done. Here you go over in your flip-flops from the back center. Sure enough, whoever was running through the lane was getting shot. Like, and then you just hand the gun back, like, it's easy. Yeah. How can you not do this, you know?
Yeah, dude, that's great.
Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of those moments where I look back at them like,
dude, you're a damn legend. Like,
no, dude.
For people out there listening that don't know, there used to be a time where there was a penalty box in the back, like he was saying in his story, and you had to, like he said, the back center guy would typically get thrown in there, and then the clock's winding down. Everyone can see when the clock's winding down. They're all waiting for you, kind of. The crowd's yelling, penalty box, here he comes, you know? And you have to bust out of this penalty box and run and try and make it to a bunker. It was just crazy.
Or come out into like three guns standing 90 degrees off, and you can't get your gun up, and you're just getting candy cane coming out of it. Which then they finally told you could just walk out the back. But again, death before dishonor. You can't.
You can't do that.
That's right.
Head first into it.
That's the rules, baby. Yeah.
I had gotten there, and then I took a step back, and that's when I stopped playing and started coaching with the Aftermath guys.
Yeah.
And then Dynasty needed help coaching, which glad to do it. And I did it for a while, right? We won a championship. Yeah. And I had kind of come to the end of the rope with that. And it was never personal with the team. I love the guys to this day. It just was getting to a point where I remember it was OXCC. We had gone to an event and we were up 5-on-4, 4-on-4. We were never negative bodies, and we ended up losing a lot of matches. Mm-hmm. And as a coach, like in other professional sports, not that I think paintball is at that level yet, but it was just like, man, these guys are not responding well to me. Mm-hmm. And Rusty was there. Respect to Rusty. I think he realized he was probably towards the end of his career, right? Like, not saying Rusty couldn't still have great games, but like Rusty would be in the pits talking, and you kind of step back and you're like, dude, this is your fucking show, bro. Like, what he was saying was so right. And Dynasty at that point, and even to this day, but especially at that point with Oliver and all the guys, it was such a different, it's not, you don't need Nick Saban coaching college kids up. You need Belichick out there. And that's what Rusty was. I'm a very emotional guy, emotionally driven. Rusty was very X's and O's. Not that he wasn't emotionally driven or there's any negative about it. Yeah. It just, at that point, for the better of the team, I felt it was the best thing for me to step back. Yeah. And at that point, the Ironmen had a young core, and it was like, I'll go help with Skinny Kevin. He was already going to be done at the end of the year. I was going to probably take over there. And it wasn't, me leaving for better glory. It's just, no different. If we have a 3-man team or a 2-man team and you guys aren't responding to what I'm saying, naturally, if like any professional sport, if the team doesn't do good, the coach has got to go. And it was time for me to fall on my sword, right? Like, I'll take it. And the team's been better for it. Rusty got in there, helped win a championship. He's done very well for the team. I had said something at that point that we needed to get after some younger players. And it's funny because I had brought Blake up, and Oliver was not interested in bringing in new players. And it was funny because within a year, Blake's on the team, and because Blake had come through the WC, and I'd watched him.
Interesting right there.
100%. Yeah. Well, here's another interesting one is when I had gone over to the Ironman and you were there, I was going to reach out to Tyler, and Tyler had showed up with Dynasty the next weekend. Yeah. And I literally walked up to him. And again, Tyler and I have always had a nothing but love relationship. Yeah. And I'm laughing about it. So I'm like, motherfucker.
I remember this conversation.
Damn, dude, if we could have got Tyler back then.
It's like the fantasy football waiver wire, right?
Yeah.
Like, who can I get? And Tyler was always in my head, like, same with like the Bornsteins. There were so many guys that came through Bob's camp that weren't, their names weren't as well known, but they were just grimy dudes. And I literally picked up both the Hebrew Hammers. Yeah. Like Tyler was on my list. Like,
dude, I miss those dudes. Guys. Those are great guys.
I still talk to Jason every once in a while. He'll message me. He's a good dude.
Yeah, and Corey's killing it.
On Dennis.
That's right. Yeah, he's doing really good. And dude, we're so honored to have been coached by you, and obviously Rusty. Dude, we have and Dynasty just has the best lineage of badass dudes. Like, we're so
there's
honored.
So many guys that at some point when they come to the end of their career, and it's really when they decide they come to the end of their career. Yeah, there's such a high IQ there that people. Yeah. If you've not been in the pit, if you've not been in there from when Oliver was there to when you guys are there now, and you look around and you're like, I mean, there's some of the newer guys that you guys have gotten, and I'm not even going to name anybody, but the guys that have been there, could go to any other team. I always say this: if you get cut, would somebody else pick you up? Mm-hmm. And the truth is, like both of you guys, the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. And there's all that Ryan, mm-hmm. Alex, Yosh. The answer is going to be yes on all of the top 5, 6, 7 dude, Blake, all those guys on your team. Yeah, there's so much IQ on that team. Mm-hmm. I don't think the world quite understands, and it's tough because the results don't always show it. Totally. And I sit back and it's like, you know, honestly, when Dynasty doesn't do well, I think to myself, they underperformed again because I truly know the nature of the beast, and I've helped build a lot of the guys there and coached all of them. And you're like, man, there's a lot of talent there.
Honest question, Mike. What's one thing that you think the team has been missing?
Snake player.
Yeah,
absolutely. We're working on it. We're grooming them.
You don't have a receiver that can open the field up.
And that's what, when we were talking about mouse, this is a game of angles and pressure, right? That's what paintball is all about. It's the name of the game. And when you have someone that can put the angles and pressure with that deep knowledge of how to play situations, they're just layered like a 15-layer cake, a game, you know, that knows how to play all those situations. It's a game changer. Yeah.
Well, you just look at the layouts, right? You look at this, and again, no knock at it. A lot of the layouts are heavy to one side, you know, snake side, they're tape bound, right? Snake side, D side.
The fields are nuts right now.
Right. And I'm not saying you can't go up other areas, but like if you don't have a snake presence, you know, I watched Aftermath lose to Revo at one of the events, and you're watching Revo just keeps refilling it. Mm-hmm. And that's like back in the day with Marcelo on Aftermath, you couldn't play on the team if you couldn't play in the snake.
Totally.
If we had to send 5 dudes through there. And again, Arturo came up under me for a while, and we've been playing against each other forever. I love Arturo. I still have a bottle of tequila that he gave me.
Hell yeah.
Like, he's my boy, you know.
Shout out to Artie.
I'm not saying he hasn't done his job.
No, he's
I'm just
nasty.
saying
Arturo's
that
doing good.
You guys haven't had the ability to stretch the field out.
Yeah.
And get that guy up there, because then, you know, everybody's angles flatten down, and that is what helps guys like when A-Rod was on the team last year get through the center. That's what helps Blake, yourself, get up the field. And if you have that snake guy takes a couple with him, like the rule of 2 that we learned on Aftermath, he takes 2 with him. Yeah, I feel good anytime if I got Marcelo, Ryan, and Yosh across the back line, somewhere in the back, cleaning up a +1 body situation. Yeah. More than not, they're going to win it. But when you're losing one of those guys because their snake guy gets up there first and puts it on. And again, I watched the tape with no emotion, just looking at the X's and O's of it. And you're kind of like, ugh. Yeah. You guys do too, right? You look back, hindsight's always 20/20.
Totally.
Yeah. And you look back at it and you're like, yeah, they beat us this point. Maybe they threw 3 guns and shot our snake guy, but that's where they beat us. And you wonder sometimes with the game, and it's, again, at hindsight, should you have played with more raw emotion? Should you have just said, fuck it, we're sending somebody to the 50 just to throw, not that maybe it would have worked this point or that point, but to make them keep guessing. And sometimes you look at the plays and the X's and O's seem very, they're predictable at some level. And sometimes you got to do some wild stuff just to make that back center, the Marcelo think. At one point he did run here on the break. So now Marcelo's gun is shooting its lane, but he's preparing for that guy to do some crazy bonsai move.
It's so funny, dude. Mike, I coach all my teams exactly the way you coached us. Truly, like I want you to know that. You know, again, like we catch up when we see each other, but we don't talk enough. I don't think I've really told you how much of an influence. I'm sure you know though. That you have blessed, just on my whole game. But like what you're saying right now, I was just saying it this weekend to my guys. That exact thing right there is like I write these plays and they're like, what is that? I'm like, dude, look, it's not about
just
this
do
point.
it.
It's not about this point, you know, like it's about the whole picture and the whole
long play,
you know, it's a long play and they don't get it, you know, they don't get it. And then what's funny is half the time the play works. And the guy who had to do this crazy thing, shoots 4 people, turns around and looks at me and it's like, shit, it worked. You know what I mean? But back to
a 50-50 play will work 100% of the time if everybody's heart is into it.
Yeah.
Hey, there we go.
That's a big one. Make it work is another big one, you know? Make it work. But
that's what we've been saying a lot. Just make it work.
Another thing about the snake position, it's arguably the toughest position to play, right? On the paintball field.
Sure. Hands down.
And you look at the best players on the best teams, the teams that are winning right now, X Factor, Russians, Impact, Houston Heat, their Snake 1 attacker is not only extremely physically gifted, they have more experience than almost anybody else in the league, you know? And so that experience, that's, you know, you got Billy Bernaccia, Chad George, Mouse, Malloy. Smotrov is a little newer, but still he's got like 4 or 5 years under his belt, and how much they play, he has that experience. So that's what, like, it's so hard for these players to come up. And I mean, I think Arturo's been amazing. The Mikey Arena pickup as well. Like, there's a lot of talent there. It's just going to take time. You know, it takes time. And it's like, it's so difficult for these teams and players to catch up, because that was my point earlier, is a lot of the top pros are still just as physically gifted as they were. I mean, maybe they're a little more sore after their games, but the mental game, what you say, like what is in between the ears is better than anybody else, because they just have so much time behind the gun.
Yeah, you're totally right. And how do you get more reps?
Yeah. Dude, Mikey Arena is insane. This guy goes to the G2 clinics that we're running out here and does the G2 clinics just to play more paintball. And
he paid to go to those.
Obviously we didn't take his money. We did not take his money.
You guys didn't know. He literally signed up and paid, and then you saw it and were like,
he's got heart,
Mikey,
man.
dude. You know?
That's like what Mike. That's what you were talking about.
Event 1 at the WC with the Violence Factory team.
Yeah.
And you know, I was out there watching. He definitely had some good points. He had some tough points. Yeah. I mean, it's decently tough in that division. It's not just Division 2. There's a lot. We moved our points structure up at the WC to give, like, and I tell you exactly who I said. I don't want Marcelo and I don't want Mouse out there. Because they can truly because they've already had the reps though, right? Like these guys, and they're capable of changing a game. Was my thought, you know, like they're so good they can change a game all on their own. But the Mikey Arenas, there's some of the guys on Thunder, Brandon Unger,
right,
you know, brother Unger. Like how can we get them some more reps? And it's not that we want to compete with the NXL, but how do we get guys as junior quarterback coming out of college? He could be the 7th round draft pick this year. Does he take it, or does he stay in college another year? Maybe move up to the 1st or 2nd round. But if he blows his ACL, he's going to be selling realty at the local Coldwell Banker. You know what I mean? Like,
or maybe
so what does he do? Right? And it's a tough one. And that was our thought, was to get those guys some more reps. How do we get the 3rd string quarterback more time with the first team offense?
I love that.
You know, so we obviously that's why we moved it up, and we saw, you know, him, Sakaguchi, great dude from Thunder, brother Unger, Peyton from the Ironmen was out there. We had some of the pros were out there, and to get those guys some more looks, and hopefully within a year their points are going to be so high they can't come back here. But hopefully they've had the reps and then they move up. But like you guys said, the top snake guys have so many years. How do you
it's tough. It's really tough.
It's really tough.
I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing at the league, Mike, and I do want to kind of dive into plans with the WCPPL and all that, but I just want to touch on something important, that anytime a teammate like Mikey reached out to me, told me that he was going to play with the team at your event, asked kind of, you know, what he should do as far as like leading the team and things like that. I was like, dude, anytime you get a chance to go and play with another team, whether it's overseas or guest with a team, if there's a regional that you could play in, take that opportunity, because you can go from being a player on your regular team to a leader on one of these other teams. And when you're forced to be the leader on one of these other teams, your growth as a player is tremendous, right? Because you have to be aware of so many different things. You have to help with the game plans. You have to understand the entirety of the game plans that you're making, everyone's jobs. You need to have such a wider understanding of the game itself. It really helps you grow as a player. So you offering a platform, I got to say, because I think Corey Hall was even able to play, and we were golfing and he told me that. I was like, dude, I'm pissed. I want to go play. Mike, bump those up a little bit, at least during COVID. Like, let us jam.
Your guys' points are way too high. Yeah, no, and it was interesting watching, right? Because obviously some of the guys out there had come through my camp, like Brother Unger, you know, and not enough can be said about that. Brother Unger. That dude's always welcome at the Casa de Hinman.
He's amazing.
We got done with the event, and obviously he's APX sponsored as well. Yeah. So we walked up to the truck and it was like, what's left on the truck? And I said, you can take as many cases as you can humanly fit in your car and take them home. And, you know, Unger, he's like, well, I'll just grab 15. And I'm like, if you can fit that whole pallet in your car,
damn, dude.
I'll pay for it, dude.
What a man, dude. Are you kidding me? That's amazing, awesome, dude. Yeah.
But it was funny watching him, like what Marcelo just said. Unger actually did it. Like he played with some of the Blitz guys. I believe it was Phoenix Rising, their premier team, but it was made up of other NXL entities that had come together to make that. But it was interesting because Unger would get up to a 50 and he would stop and tell the guys around him, like, hey, you need to get here, you need to get there, and really put it together. And it was like, because Unger was a tough one, because when he played for me 2 years ago, he was sitting third on the depth chart on the D side. We had CC, we had Mesa, other guys that would play ahead of him. But what's funny with Unger is the second somebody would struggle, and somebody always has a tough tournament, you would be like, Unger, you're up. And he's kind of running in like John Rocker, like coming out of the outfield, just and not over the top with it, but he was ready. If I said, hey, I need you to go run up to the 50 and blow this dude's head off.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Dude, I did an amazing, he's a personal trainer. It's what he kind of does out here, and he's killing it. And he actually is helping us with the G2. Shout out to Unger. I did a training with him before my pro tour. He kicked my ass before I played Keith. And I just felt like, I felt ready to go. He's working really hard. Huge shout out to him, and obviously Mikey and Artie too in Mexico. He's working his ass off out there too. And
Arturo's been working for a long time, even back when Marcelo was originally with Aftermath, and he was on the TJ All Stars and Naughty by Nature and all those teams that he was on.
Yeah,
with Penguino.
Penguino. Shout out to Penguino.
Let's go, Penguino.
Those guys are something else.
Yeah,
that's the R-rated stories right there.
Party time.
Hinge, let's dive into the league though, and what the plans are for the WC. I do have a question that somebody asked me to ask you, which was ironic. They had no idea that we were doing this show with you today. But
no way.
Our homie Josh Messer wants to know if you guys can use my layout at the next event, not the one coming up.
So we use completely blind layouts. Yeah. So it's funny with our layouts, right? I have an idea of the bulk of the layout, but we wait till Sunday night before the event. So there's not that anybody would leak it or it could get leaked.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's been times where we've wanted to see elements of a layout, a snake layout, how it would play. And then somebody turned, like we did in Arizona one weekend, we used a completely different field layout, just a part of the snake, something different that we've never seen. And people were like, oh, Arizona had the layout before we did. So now we wait till Sunday night before the event. I have an idea what it's going to look like. And then myself, Jerry, and actually Thomas Taylor helps a ton. Thomas, if there's one dude you can definitely trust, it's Thomas Taylor, right?
That's right.
Like he's not leaking anything.
No.
And we all put it together and kind of throw it around. Then on Monday, kind of regurgitate it again.
Cool.
Look at what needs to be changed. And that's why we use the blind layouts. And for us, there's a lot of, like, our last event will probably be the weekend. If World Cup does happen, will be the weekend after it. And for us to have a blind layout, it reminds me of the softball, Wednesday night beer league softball idea. You can just show up and play. You don't have to have,
I was going to ask.
You don't have to have 2 weekends. And I'm not putting the NXL down for it, but teams spend so much money at practice on the 2 weekends of the layout. And then Tyler, Marcelo, we have other family. What if your kid's birthday's on one of those weekends?
Always.
Now,
it always is.
I had Bryce induced, so I didn't miss Chicago with Dynasty. Like
Sarah was gonna pop. I was literally at a tournament playing paintball, and she's like, "I'm gonna have this baby, son of a bitch. You better get home."
Got to make those sacrifices, baby. That's what we talked about.
So for us not having to do this weekend, we have an event next weekend. There'll be a lot of people playing this weekend. I still think people are going to practice heavily, but there's almost, you guys have the 2 weekends of the layout.
I like it. I like the blind layout. I do.
If you don't get to both weekends, right? And Marcel, it's because that's what you guys are used to doing, right? Those 2 weekends of hardcore breaking it down. Yeah, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but for the divisional teams, if they don't get those 2 weekends in, they feel like, on a local level, hey, did you hear Collision and Violence? They're up on the north side of LA. Those boys are grinding hard up there. Like, if you miss a weekend, like, fuck, man, David Ramirez's camp is going to be like, if you catch them in the prelims, they're ready, and you weren't there a weekend. So I feel it takes some of the pressure off. And if you want to play the NXL, then go play the NXL. With WC, you only have to show up to 4 event weekends. And you can still go play all these other leagues and not feel like you've given something up by not getting the layout.
I get it for a regional league. I totally see and with scheduling, like you make the point about World Cup, you could just kind of show up and play. What are your thoughts for the NXL though, for those kind of layouts? And I only ask, Mike, simply because this is a hot topic of conversation, right? And in one breath, a lot of the fields I know look forward to those layout weekends because it gets all the teams out there, you know?
Yeah.
But then the
argument is that the only way to get people out there? I mean,
that's the
simple,
argument,
man.
Right?
Get a laptop and a speaker. Last weekend or the weekend before, Jerry and I were out at Jungle Island doing a WCPL practice. You were playing 3 or 4 points back to back to back. I think we were actually split deck.
Yeah.
But we just threw it as a big practice weekend.
Right.
I think people need to think outside the box. I mean, we hear this statement all the time that field owners don't make money on airball and blah, 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 blah.
I don't agree with that. You look at the paint that could be sold if you run it right and you do it right. I think there could be a lot of money to be made.
And Jerry's out here with me in my area, and he's been crushing it with the practices.
Because you guys did one the weekend before. We did the one out here. We did one out there as well. So listen, people will still play. And what Marcelo is saying is not wrong. Like Marcelo is correct. A lot of fields are used to that income coming in the 2 weekends before. But again, long-term, short-term play. Sure. I see it every year. I mean, when this next season starts, hopefully if we can get past COVID, we can all 3 of us, I'll send a group chat, a message out of all these local teams that are going to, they're going to go big, bro. We're going to NXL. We're going to play WC. We're going to be fucking rich, bro. We're going to win all these events. And then within one event, they don't win and they're broke again. And you're kind of like, how did that help you? Yeah. You know, because what we said is we want people playing all the time, not all the time, but 2 weekends out of 4. How do we get them out there 2 weekends out of the month and keep people playing paintball? Because when they go to these big events, they go broke and they have delusions of grandeur. Sure. Oh, we're going to win this and we're going to get sponsored. Like, man, you know, ourselves, HK, GI, we're all selling paint for so cheap. It's not like paint's $50 a case wholesale. And there's so much margin in it that we're able to then turn around and give the local Modesto store, GN Excessive, or Junior, 200 free cases at the tournament. We're making $4 a box, $3 a box. Like, there's nothing left. But these teams think sponsored means I'm going to get a bunch of free stuff. Yeah. And you're kind of like,
no, it's not like that.
It is really cool to see that through this pandemic of COVID paintball. I was really scared in the beginning, dude. And I'm so happy to see what's transpired through this all. I feel like the community has come together and there's a lot of paintball still being played, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It's bumping out there. I said, I go out to ASG because Alex Key is my partner and ultimately my friend, goes out there and practices with a team FBGM. Yeah. Florida boys get money. Yeah, and in California, but they're always out there practicing. And I pull up every weekend, and like I said, you expect to see a couple of teams, and there's 17 teams out there, and you're like, man, 110. Like I just want to get back in the car and drive home. But everybody's out getting it.
Yeah, and Mike, you brought up the teams going to these events and losing money. One amazing thing about your league, if I remember correctly, you have an amazing prize package.
We do. Yeah. We give a ton of money away, but you know how I look at it, and I've always looked at it like this, is the 3 of us would love to have a Ferrari. I mean, maybe for Tyler and I, we can't fit all the kids in there, but we would all love to have a Ferrari, to have one. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I've got a Ford. I do have a Tesla, but I have my Ford and I have my Chevy because that's a more affordable model to be able to pitch to people. Yeah. And, in the year-end meetings, I would hear Rail talk. And a lot of us that are tournament players don't agree with everything Rail has to say. But Rail's usually not that wrong, because what he said was like 90% of players never win. Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then what does it matter what first place gets? Because 90% of guys will never actually see it. So now do we lower the barrier to entry, which is entry, and then our paint? I mean, I bought a paint company just so I couldn't be dictated what my prices had to be. Sure. Like that's really. It was crazy because every year, and I'm not going to name names, but the big guys would be like, let's raise it up $5. Yeah. And again, for me, I got $5 all day. But these teams, when they shoot 70 cases, and you know who said it was Giovanni from SC Village. He goes, when we went from 7-man to X-Ball, and X-Ball had ultimately won out that war. He goes, when we go to a format that needs more than, is what he said, 30 boxes of paint to get through the prelims, not cases, boxes. Yeah. That it's going to struggle. And, as a younger man, I was like, you're crazy, dude. Like X-Ball, it's the MMA of paintball. Like we're going at it. But he's right, because a lot of teams want to be, we want to play. You hear kids say this, 15 balls a second, full X-Ball matches. Right. You better get your mom's Amex card, Chief, because there's no way you can afford it. And it's really tough for me because I'm not somebody to tell anybody else their business. You guys have seen me. I'm not that guy. I'm a humble man left to my own. But you look at people, and I really struggle to say this, but like you almost have to tell them what's better for them because they want, again, we want to play 15-minute match halves. And you're like, dude, that's when Marcelo was playing on the team when we were D3, we shot 150 cases at one event. $30 a case. $4,500 it cost me. You know what I mean? Like, you can't afford, people just can't afford it. So again, there's where we are today and where we're heading to, like the mech resurgence that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Why is mech making such a comeback? Because truthfully, a field for 5 or 10 grand can build a hyperball field, and it's not going to be effed up next year.
Yeah.
Airball field will be destroyed by next year. Leave the bunkers out and they're tattered, right? Yeah. So there's where we are and where we're headed and where we need to be, and how do we close that distance without alienating the current business model we have. Yeah. And I mean, like for us, if COVID hadn't hit, we were going to force the teams in our league. One of our events would have been a 10-man event. And if you would have just participated, you would have got your points towards the series. Whoa. Because, another one is Unger, right? Unger came through the camp. He still comes out and helps set up my events. I don't know if we pay him $150. Dude. It's not much, right? But he does that out of respect with myself and Jerry. But one of the events, he got done setting up, and Jerry's like, I got to drive him to the airport, and it's Thursday night or whatever, right? And I'm like, oh, fuck you going, man. Like, we have a whole tournament to run here. He goes, I'm flying to Chicago to play with a team to play 10-man. And I'm like, oh, man, that's so much fun. And Unger says to me, he goes, I've never played a 10-man in my life. And he's from Arizona, right? Yeah. So he's never played. And I think he played with Adrenaline or whatever, and they ended up winning the event with Nikki Cuba and all that.
Dope.
But it was so crazy that this pro guy had never even played 10-man. And I think we have a whole generation of new players that never played up in the eucalyptus trees at Velocity Paintball or on the Hyperball. And if people could do it, I think they'd be like, man, that's a lot of fun. I mean, listen, the three of us could go get a Tippmann A5 and run around the field and shoot each other with 5 balls in the hopper, and it would still be fun, right? Yeah. It's not about how we play now. Paintball is going to be, we could take pump guns, tracers, and go have fun with each other. But it's how do we get people there and to see it and to understand it. Yeah. And, when I was a kid, I was poor. I grew up white trash. Yeah. Maybe I still am. But, like when I grew up, a case of paint, I never had to worry about, like, one case, 2,500 RP Sureballs lasted me a weekend or two. Hell yeah. There was plenty of paint. Now we're at a point where these kids need 5 cases to get through a 2-day practice. Yeah. And I just don't know.
We have to reassess, man. Serious reassessment. You know what I mean? Because you're right. It's so much fun, dude, playing these grassroots games. And I think that you're hitting on it once again. There's this whole demographic lineage that has missed out on this fundamental step of paintball that I still love more. I mean, I'll say it point blank. I personally love playing woods ball, those kind of crazy events, more than this whole rigid airball thing. And I'm really good at airball. I'm super good at airball, and I can play with the best of them.
But there's nothing like sneaking a Gator Black to a crack in a wood bunker and smoking somebody's face.
I think all of it's good. That's why I love the addition of this 10-man and woods ball. It is so good for the sport because, I mean,
more paintball.
Yeah, more paintball.
But you know who the driving force behind that, besides Tim, and rest in peace to Tim Cole. And what he is, Tom Cole, man. Yeah, like Tom Cole was saying it at the NXL meetings when I was back there, and you're like, man, he's right, and now we've alienated these big dudes like myself. Right, you don't get big without having some money and being able to eat well. And we've literally kicked them out of the sport. They have nowhere to play.
Bob Long used to always say that. That's what Bob would always say. He was like, "What are you guys doing? I'm the big dog. I'm the one funding it. Yeah. So what are you doing to me here? You know what I mean? Yeah. For sure.
Or Bart or Randy. And I'm not saying Bart and Randy want to go play, but those are the guys funding the teams. Yeah. And like at WC, we literally added this, I don't know if it's 5x5x7 cube. It's the big square cube that we put, and it's within the back 15 feet. Yeah. So that way a big guy can get to it.
I love that.
And if the guy stands there and wants to, and we're not going to make it the most overlording, powerful bunker on the field. Yeah. But if he can sit there and shoot 7 or 8 pods, and maybe it comes down to a one-on-one, maybe he wins, maybe he loses.
He can have his day.
He can have his day. But the current like I would sit there at Victory and look from the back breakout down the field, and you're like, dude, this is just checkers. We lost it when we got rid of, and I think Tom did good with the expansion kit that they added, the bricks and the wings, because when you lay those in the center, all of a sudden there's Tyler's big ass head going through, but he dips, you like the car washes, right? All of a sudden he disappears, and it's like, fuck, he's coming out one of these sides, but you've probably taken a guy or two with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you just have open lanes everywhere.
Totally.
Yeah.
It got boring. Well, the skill just got to a point to where you couldn't have that anymore, and it did get pretty boring. I feel like the fields now are a little more like 7-man. You know, there's more creativity, there's more options, and you're right. You could lose people. Makes it way more interesting.
And somebody can have their moment, right? And that
totally.
really is important.
Totally. I wish you could make the fields a little bigger again, you know, a little longer maybe. Kind of like
You're definitely not wrong. The problem is everywhere from the West Coast to the East Coast, we built these turf fields to hold an X-ball field, and I don't know how we go about it. But again, that's what we said, right? There's where we are and where we need to be, and how do you close that gap down?
That's it, dude. Legend.
Yeah. Hinge. Obviously, you know, we've talked quite a bit about running teams. You know, there's a lot of people out there that either owners or captain, whatever it is of their team. What's some of the best advice you can give to somebody that is trying to build a winning divisional organization?
Oof. That's a tough one. I mean, heart and grit, right? Yeah. Like you got to have heart and grit, you know, and I think a lot of the owners of teams, myself included, you give your players so much and you stop. By the time you get to the end of it, when you're about to pull the plug, you look back at it and you're like, man, these guys are paying nothing. And I think, you know, the old saying of if you have nothing vested, you have nothing gained. I think people need to, their blood, sweat, and tears have got to go into it too. If an owner of a team cares more than their players do, it's not going to go far, right? Totally. You're not long-term, you're not going to get anything out of it. When your kids are showing up from the last tournament with the paint still in their gear bag, dripping out of the breech of their gun because they haven't cleaned their shit, you're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah. So, absolutely. You know, and it's tough, man. It's the salmon swimming up the stream. Only a couple of them make it out before the bears get them, you know? And that's really how I feel about divisional paintball. A couple, you know, X Factor, AC, like some of these teams are lucky enough to get out. You know, the Bro Army guys up in Utah, I'm hoping they do well. Phoenix Rising's got a great camp. I hope some of these guys get out. But truthfully, when you stop and look at the numbers, man, it's expensive. It is just expensive, you know, like, and, you know, Tyler, you know, you got kids, like when your kids come to you and say, Dad, I need $1,500 and you need to travel with me to this event. You stop and you're like, I mean, hey buddy, I'll do it for you. You know, like my older son wanted a computer built by that guy Stints he just built a computer for Ninos meter. And he's like, I want a computer like that. And I was like,
whatever you say, dude.
Whatever you say. But a lot of people don't have that kind of money, you know, like they don't have the ability. And I think that's a problem. You know, I don't know. And, you know, there's we want to get to the National League level. I've seen Fusion. I've seen all these teams do it and just blow apart doing it. And it's not the NXL's fault. They just think that, I mean, it costs as much to run a D3 team as it does a pro team from a entry fee, flights, paint standpoint. They pay for more than the pros pay for.
We're actually going to be doing a show soon with a divisional player. We want to get a whole scoop on that whole outlook. And I know we could have a whole show right now with you about it. But it is a whole bit there. Absolutely.
Well, I think the problem for a lot of divisional guys, they have this feeling that when they get to the semi-pro or pro level, there's going to be a bunch of sponsorship there. Yeah. And, you know, another team I sponsor and I feel I can talk on it is Corey Field and the Thunder guys. You know, like Corey Field, I don't know his numbers, but he has a decent sponsorship package. Corey Field works his ass off.
Hell yeah.
Like he has developed so many contacts for my paint company. And I'm not plugging, like he literally, hey, awesome. This field needs it. This field needs it. Yeah. And, you know, he's worked for it. But if you think you're going to get to pro, you earn a pro spot. And all of a sudden, you know, Mutiny got a great GI deal. No knock at it. GI helped Mutiny out a ton. Mutiny is out there working. Andy Horvath is out there pounding the pavement, selling Mutiny gear and Mutiny this. And Dynasty's out there pounding the pavement for HK, right? I mean, don't think you're going to get there. And a pallet's going to show up at your front door full of gear bags with loaded gear and all this free stuff's going to come, because that's not really how it works. Like, it's just not how it works. So if these guys think that that's what it is, like,
yep,
you're going to be paying for it. As a pro, you're still going to be paying for it.
And there's a lot to do right now.
Yeah, you got to go get it. And I think that's the tough part for regional teams, you know. But there's such a passion in this sport that runs so deep that owners like myself, you just keep forking out more money and forking out more money. And then you get to the end of the year and you're like, man, I could have flown my family to the Maldives for like a month or two and just chilled out on the beach with some spider monkeys or something like that. You know what I mean?
So Mike, if, you know, you make the commitment to help out financially, that's not an issue. What are the requirements that you're making mandatory from your players?
From my side of the fence?
Yeah, I mean, from an owner standpoint. From an owner standpoint, you know?
You got to have realistic expectations, right? Like, that doesn't mean you're playing 52 weekends. But if it's, you know, you guys are an NXL team, you're going to play the 2 weekends before, you have to be at those. When Aftermath came back for version 18.0 with Barga and all those guys, the semi-pro year, not one guy missed one practice. Everybody, and absolutely. You know, like Tom Guest, Garrett, all those guys, Barga, Frank Anamaso, great dude, still a good friend of mine. Like those guys flew in every weekend, and that's a long flight. Like Frank would fly home on Sunday night, get to New York, get off the plane, go to work. I mean,
that's
crazy,
that grit.
Right?
That's that grit that you're talking about.
Exactly.
But that's what they knew what I expected of them.
Yeah.
I knew what they expected of me, and we executed it. But then the next season when I had stepped back, all of a sudden guys stopped showing up to practice. They have a good event, and it just the Hindenburg started, right? Like it went down. So I think you need to make realistic expectations, you know?
Gotcha.
And I think you need to talk to your players about, guys, Tyler, can you be at the 2 weekends before for 5 events? That's 10 weekends plus the events. That's 15 weekends that you have to be here. Plus probably another 15 of just playing paintball to keep yourself fresh. Is that realistic? And when you tell me as a man, yes, that is realistic, then I'm going to hold you accountable as you're going to hold me accountable for whatever my end as an owner is. But I think a lot of players say one thing and do another, and then frustration starts to mount.
It boils.
You know, teams are such a finicky beast
Yeah.
Because you got 10 dudes or 8 dudes or however many it is, and that's a lot of voices.
Yeah.
And in all reality, everybody needs to turn it down a little bit, not turn it up a little bit. Yeah. And all of a sudden you got 10 dudes, and you know what they say, it's the little things that kill, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden you get to a point where like Marcelo took my head wrap or some dumb shit, or got the bed or whatever it was, you know what I mean? And it's people are fighting over it. And it's not over, Marcelo, you did something to cost us World Cup. It's literally over like we went to Panera Bread 2 nights in a row, and A-Rod didn't want that. And you're like,
we didn't eat what I wanted to eat.
Right? So I think realistic expectation, you know, managing that and understanding the financial resources.
What if, and this is a problem that I see with so many teams that I do coach in divisional paintball, it seems like there's always that 1 or 2 player that's really good, but he can't totally commit. You know, he's got the talent, but he misses weekends, and he's
the age-old problem.
Yeah, like that's what do you do with that? What do you do with that, Mike?
I don't know what you do with that, Marcelo, because this is so. Here's the issue. Player A is phenomenal. He's a great paintball player, but he doesn't show up all the time. Player B, that's replaying his spot, shows up every weekend, but he's not as good as player A. Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah.
And you know, in the short term to win, the best player on Aftermath always plays.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you're setting a bad example long term by the Unger that's there every weekend training 7 days a week. And it's unfortunately the guy that's training 7 days a week is never the A player. He's always the B player. Right? It would just be nice if the guy that was
could just merge.
You could get the best of both worlds.
I hear you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't quite happen like that. And it's a tough one. I mean,
it is.
Are you in win a championship now mode? Because if you are, you know, you ride your ponies. If you're building, and you know who said this was Paxson that year that we were all on the Ironman last, Marcelo, was that it was a 2-year plan. Because we had sat down at the first practice at Victory, and it was like, you know, we're in this year. And Paxson stopped us all. And it is, I still remember the words this day. He's like, no, this is a 2-year plan. We're going to get through this year, and then we're going to get into next year. And if we keep the same team, which we didn't, then we have a good chance the second year of doing better. And no different than Dynasty, right? Like you guys got Arturo. Arturo's probably playing better year 2 than he did year 1. Not he's just as good year 1, but you got to get through a season with a group of guys where you just know each other's farts and noises and
Dude,
every other you do.
Yeah.
You think year one, we can do it right now, and maybe you can do it right now. But if you can do it right now, you'll do it better year two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you get lucky, you know?
You want to go through an off season and try to keep 80% of a roster intact. Yeah. There's going to be a guy or two that comes and goes, but if you can keep 80% nucleus intact, 70, 80%, that was always a number on the Aftermath camp that we tried to keep whole as much as we could.
For sure. That's how it is. Absolutely.
That is it. Yeah, I have some regrets about that. Damn, we had a team. We definitely had a team that could have made a serious splash.
Yeah. We got top 4 at World Cup that year.
Yeah, we got third.
Recently they won the event, and then they got second in another one. But for that team and the teams that we went up against, we were definitely the Moneyball roster, right? Like not many guys were getting many guns.
Man, what a team, dude. Aftermath is one of the most historical teams like to ever play paintball. That brand, that name.
But what's funny is that Aftermath team was really we just went to the Ironman. It was Marcelo, Mouse, Spitz was there, McCormick, like all these guys. It was just the same team. Yeah, little. Which you had a huge hand in little Brandon coming to that team, right? Like his tryout, you were the one like, hey, Brandon Cornell should get a spot, and it was like, then show up.
And you know why, Mike? It's exactly what we were talking about, because I was at the field whenever we didn't have practice, and you know who else was at the field?
Yeah, Brandon was always there.
He was always there.
Grinding.
Always
and
there.
You know, it wasn't like I didn't respect the kid. It was just like, fuck, is it really his time to shine?
Yeah.
Okay, get out there, kid. You know what I mean? And Marcelo's like, yeah, man, he needs a shot, and then he gets out there and he get rule of 2, right? He was taking 2 with him, and it's like, oh. Here's your shield, kid.
That's it. You know? Yeah, if everybody's taking 2, we're handling business out there.
Dude,
Rule 2.
Yeah.
Rule 2.
Yeah. So, hey, Hinch, who's your favorite coach of all time, dude? For paintball.
That's a really good question.
That's a good one, right? Like,
for paintball and then for real sports too, like any other sport.
Come on.
Well, I mean, I think we'll see this next year with Belichick, right? If Belichick is really the master, or if it was Brady behind him, right? Yeah. So we'll see there. And then when we come to paintball, I mean, there's a lot of good coaches, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, respect Coach Paul from Tampa Bay Damage that's passed away. Yes. I think that dude was really smart. I don't think he got enough light shined on him.
I played under him. I played on Tampa under him, and he was so amazing as a coach, dude. Just a genuine dude, man. And he knew what the hell he was talking about for sure. He knew how to play
without a doubt. I think he's a great coach. I mean, if you're talking current coaches, there's a lot of good ones out there. You can't Ryan, all the guys are in the top tier, you know, respect to the whole Russian Legion.
Yeah, their whole
camp. You know what I mean? Like they're lost you for a second. They're crazy good. I think Dave Baines has done a great job, right? Like Dave's done the DMG camp and Impact, but the DMG camp, I think we're going to see talent spawning out of that camp for years to come. Not that that camp's going anywhere, but if players left that camp, not saying they're going to, but I think you're going to see a lot of talent. Like Dave has paid it forward. He has sown the ground, and we're going to see the bounty of that harvest soon.
And shout out to your boy Cash Money. You know what I'm saying? Let's go.
Stick.
And you got to choose one. You got to choose one, baby. Could Cash be from Money, the past, present, favorite coach of all time.
I mean, if we're going all, then I'm just going to say Paul out of respect.
There we go.
Paul, you know what I mean?
That. Dude, he's the man. Yeah.
Take him back any day of the week.
R.I.P. Paul. Yeah, dude. My God.
Joey Blute's a great coach too. I mean, look at what he did with Mutiny. Like Mutiny has always been a good team, but he came in there and if we were Batman, he was, the Joker. Like that was our nemesis. And they beat us at World Cup, and we won the series by a fraction of a point. We beat them 3 times total. They beat us twice. We got the pro spot, but Joey 100%. Like again, you're talking a younger team that wants results. There's one guy you can pay right now, and that's Joey Blute, to guarantee any division get you better results than you have. Your wins above replacement will improve with Joey Blute as your coach. So if I'm going to have to say a guy right now, it's Joey. It will.
Yeah,
I mean, look at what he did.
Wrong.
Like,
you're not wrong,
if
man.
the players had listened to him, and I'm not putting anybody down, but if they had all listened to Joey, I guarantee you Aftermath's not sitting in the pro division, and Mutiny is sitting in the pro division right now.
Wow.
Damn, dude. Yeah, Joey's the man. Played under, like, with Tampa when I was over there. He was coaching us over there, too. He always took great care of us. Great dude.
Yeah, smart dude, right? Like, I mean, You take him however you want to take him, but the words coming out of his mouth are not wrong.
That's right. Yep. And dude, look in the mirror too. You're the one as well, Hinge. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but I mean, you got to give respect where it's due around you. And like,
yeah,
what I've done yesterday means nothing tomorrow, right? I got to keep doing it going forward.
Yes.
But like, Joey is still here right now doing it. And Dave's still here right now doing it, putting together teams and winning tournaments and championships. I mean, X Factor, Todd Martinez, right? I mean, let's be real about it.
I know.
Nobody in their right mind thought the Ironmen could win the first event, and then they did.
Yeah,
they did.
And they did.
I think they surprised themselves a little. It was amazing to watch that.
Nobody thought those guys could win.
Yeah.
And then they did it, and I sat back and laughed because Todd is definitely capable of doing it.
Fuck yeah, he is, dude, and he did it.
If people would just close their mouth and open their ears and listen to what Todd says to them, his players, we'd be in a lot better spot.
Oh, dude, without a doubt,
sometimes he sounds crazy.
He's one of the most decorated. He's one of the most decorated to ever do it, man. You look in the history books about what this guy's done, and he's not messing around. He's not playing games.
As a kid at the original Camp Pendleton, that dude lumped my big fat head so many times. With his black Predator autococker with the Armson dot sight on it. More times than Rusty and his little antenna twirly thing that he had on the sitting ducks.
Yeah.
I remember that hat. Yeah, Rusty. Always, facts.
Big facts.
Little Todd had a body count back then, Marine team. It was called the original Marine team.
Yep. Dude, I'll never forget. I was in Europe with Cash Money, Todd Martinez, and we were just drinking beers and having a good time. Marsh, we were there together. I can't remember what event it was, but I was just like, bro, you're my spirit animal. Just the dude that he is, the animal on the field, off the field, just like he's just a funny dude, always lighthearted, and just a great dude all around.
You played with him on Aftermath when he took his year of banishment out of the pro league for smashing the golf cart into a pole, and he had to come down and play with us. And he was the greatest dude to be around, wasn't he? Like,
he's the best.
He stepped down to play with Aftermath because the pro, Lane and them booted him out.
Yeah.
And Todd was just literally, he took it well. It wasn't like I'm off Dynasty. It was like, yeah, fuck, going to play with Aftermath now. Prepare grommets.
Yeah, for real.
And he handled it. So,
dude, he's the man.
So yeah, he's another great. There's a lot of great coaches. And like I said, that's the tough part of saying that Marcelo is the greatest player or Tyler is the greatest player, because the second you say it, you automatically remember another name. You know what I mean? Like, well, what about this guy? Well, what about that guy?
Of course.
So it's really tough to put one name on a list.
I think we could all agree on the GOAT.
The GOAT on who? Player?
Yeah.
Who do you think it is?
It's got to be Oliver. He's the Jordan. He's the Jordan. I'm not saying that there's not players that have maybe played better than him, but he has done more in the sport than anybody else, on and off the field. He achieved all of the bars. He was the first to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to argue that, I think.
Without a doubt. I'm not going to argue it. That's for sure. I love Oliver. I still am learning to this day things that Oliver said back then.
Sure.
They're still becoming like relevant. Those goose eggs of knowledge are still opening up to my head.
Yeah.
To this day with Oliver. Like
for sure, dude.
Yeah.
Even cannot say enough.
We just talked with him for a few hours on the show, a few episodes back, and he just breaks your brain kind of, you're like, whoa, if you really sit and resonate on where he's coming from, it's a pretty powerful space. And iconically, it's unequivocal what he's done iconically as a paintball player.
Yeah.
The accomplishments, the accolades are all there. So yeah, maybe you can throw a couple guys next to him, but there's nobody like him. There's nobody iconically that's done what Oliver's done.
He is the Jordan.
He's the Jordan. He is the GOAT. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah. And I mean, Ryan's been right there next to him, riding for a long time, and is still doing it, and is still the smartest dude. I think Ryan's got the highest paintball IQ. I tell people this, when I first got to Dynasty, I'd be in those team meetings, right, when there's 15 dudes in there, Danny Tiljack, and all these guys that were on the team. And, like, Oliver and Ryan would go at each other sometimes, and I was thinking to myself, like, man, if you talk to me like that, I'd smack you across the room, Ryan. You know what I mean? Like, and Ryan and Marcel, you've been there. Ryan will stand up on a table sometimes.
Yeah.
He would literally be in like a 2-bed hotel room, standing on a table, hunched over the ceiling. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, yelling. Napoleon, come on down, bud. Come on down. But the funny part with Ryan is, and it took me to being his coach to realize it, is he's truly light years ahead when it comes to the IQ. And Ryan, of all the guys on that team, I connected the most with Ryan. Like, we'd go to Vegas together, go to the clubs and stuff like that. Yeah. But like, he really, to this day, if I was starting a team, he would be another one. And not that he would ever leave Dynasty, but he's one of those guys. He has so much knowledge to pass on. That's why we talk about this all the time. And we, on pretty much every show, we kind of make fun of Ryan in some way, but it's just because he deserves it. But we also, in the same breath, I don't know who's better come Sunday when it like, as far as like breaking down another team, you know, that guy is just unbelievable. He really is. You get Ryan, Yosh, and yourself into a 3-on-3 situation, and you don't put an extra amount of pressure on Ryan, you could be in a lot of trouble. Like, if you allow Ryan to pick the bones, you're in trouble. Exactly. I mean, you'll shoot him here or there, but on a out of 10 points, every time Aftermath would practice against Dynasty and we would shoot Ryan, in my mind, the numbers, it's all analytical numbers in my brain. It's like, man, we just went up to like 80% probability of winning. And even when we were 5-on-3 and the three's like Yosh and Ryan, I'm like, fuck, anything could happen. Hey, you're up 5-on-3 and you're thinking the next guy that gets shot, period, our 5 or their 3 costs their guy the game. Because 5-on-3 against those two is, and probably like eggs taking hits off somewhere being eggy. You know what I mean? Like, 5-on-3 is almost even money at that point. Like, he's that good. But Ryan is a great player. That if Oliver is the GOAT, then he is the Pippin, and nobody has given him his proper due for it. Because for sure. Well, Marcelo, you know this story to be true. Dave Youngblood will say to this day the mistake. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dave Youngblood will say this to this day. The mistake he made was not getting Ryan over Oliver. Yeah. Oh, wow. Interesting. Absolutely. And Marcelo, before I even said it, Marcelo knew it. Yeah. He says it to this day that he could have got Ryan for the same money. And he didn't say it in a negative, like Oliver was a bad player. He just said, in hindsight, looking back at it, that he thought Ryan would have been a better long-term fit to build the Ironman empire under Ryan. Interesting. And dude, it hurts me still to this day that Oliver isn't here playing paintball. I'm like, bro, where did you go? I need you. Like, we need you here. He's just such a cornerstone of paintball. And I think that his energy is needed more right now in paintball than ever. You know, like, we need those kind of characters. And Ryan, dude, is just an animal. I mean, point blank. He is an animal on the field, off the field. No matter where you put that man, he's an animal. And he's gonna, you know, pick you apart, like you said, to the bones if you let him. 100%. You know, I say it like this with Ryan. I hope in 15 years when I'm heading through an airport, I catch Ryan walking through, because I genuinely want to see that dude, right? Not that I don't see him now, but he's a really good dude. And I think people see Ryan and they see how they perceive Ryan. And then for those of us that have been in the minivan coming back from the bar with Ryan, as long as BC wasn't tying him up with a seatbelt, which I actually saw that happen one time. Yeah, that's but no good. Ryan's a good dude. Like, I genuinely have, coming from me, like, of all my top 10 all-time guys, Ryan is definitely on the list, and I love the dude. Like, he's a really great guy, great guy. But you can break his balls too. Oh yeah, that's all it is. We have fun breaking his balls because he breaks our balls, dude. Nonstop. That's what it's about on Dynasty too, though. You know, and obviously, we're all over here in a team meeting, like 2 feet off the ground, looking at a field layout, and this dude's like back over by the picture, like literally standing up, talking. And you're like, bro, what are you doing, bro? Hey, come on down. Come back to earth. Come back to earth. He's up on the Matterhorn yelling down to us. True story, dude. I love it. Hinge, you've spent a lot of time with us. I know we kept you longer than you said. That's all good. We did, but it's been amazing. I another question again, and so much of these questions, dude, are for the listeners, obviously. And it's not that like I already know the answer to this, to be honest. But I just really want the listeners to understand what it takes. And so, can you give just some of your best advice to players that want to chase a professional paintball career? I mean, 52 weekends out of the year, right? Yep. 52 weekends, Saturdays, Sundays. You've got to be in good physical shape. You've got to do more than everybody else is doing. So go out to your local field, wherever that is, if you're in Cali or Arizona or Boston or Florida, and go out there. And how long is everybody else out there? 6-7 hours, 2 days? Like, you got to figure out how to squeeze 10 out of it.
Yeah.
Like, you see these guys out on their own time running drills. You have to step your game up. You have to be that good. And another team that jumps out is the Bro Army team out of Utah.
Yeah.
They came to WC
awesome.
they've been coming for some seasons. And at first they were good. They were good young kids. I see a lot of good young kids.
Yeah.
But then in the last year, you see these pictures of them out in a cornfield or some shit, shooting at bunkers, and you're kind of like,
wow,
okay, dude, maybe but then you watch them and maybe they're losing the match. But a guy makes a bump from the God into the snake, and he's, running and shooting in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he smokes a dude square between the eyes, and he doesn't get shot. And you're like, wow. And that's, to me, like when you go to like college football and you watch a guy on Division II Appalachian State, and the scouts are like, he is great. And you're like, that team was dog shit. Like, they went 4-8 on the season, and they weren't good. But the scouts are able to pick out fundamentals that player. Tim Tebow's another guy, national champion, great human being, great guy. All the scouts said he will never pan out in the NFL. He's now playing double or triple A for the Mets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or like, it just didn't. And the scouts knew that about him. And the same way I see some of these young kids, like, you have to step it up. You have to be a machine out there. And it's very achievable in the sport. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
But you really have to go. I mean, Marcelo, we know some guys. I know you coach like the Warpath guys, and there's some young kids on that team that Basie went to Elevation.
Yeah.
But, like, honestly, I haven't seen him at the field the last couple weeks I've been out there. You want to be that dude, there's other guys that came out of that team, right? Urena came from Elevation, and now he's where he is. But you see some of these other guys, I want to be a pro again. I mean, again, I go to that statement. If the pro team cuts you and nobody wants to pick you up, you're probably not a pro, bud.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. That's a good point.
It's
funny. I mean, the theme is be at the field and do the work. That's the theme.
You
man.
have to put the work in.
Opponents. Yeah, that's
you have to. You got to put it in. You got to go sit in their stands and watch. I mean, for myself, I think I know how a field's wired, and I go sit and I watch. I watch you guys play. I watch Impact play it. I watch the Russians play it. And sometimes I'm like, I wouldn't play it like that. And other times I'm like, oh, light bulb. Like, you have to extract every bit of knowledge out of it.
For sure.
You can, but if you're not doing that, I mean, and all three of us know this, like when I got to Aftershock and I put on that blue dye jersey with the red, heartbeat line going through it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought like my Batman cape had showed up. What I didn't realize at that point was I had to put something into it. My heartbeat had to be so large and hard and strong that it made the Aftershock jersey beat and go out handle. This jersey didn't do shit for me. It was me. It was the heart that I had that had it. So some young kid out there that's listening to the show is going to be on Dynasty someday for a fact. But just because you put on the dragon, you got to go become the dragon. You got to be better than Oliver, than Ryan, than Marcelo, Tyler, every dude that's come before you. And it's a great Yankees-like lineage of guys that have come through that camp. But you got to be the new guy. You got to be the Derek Jeter on the Yankees with Ruth and DiMaggio, all these guys before you. You got to be bigger and better. And that's hard to do. Maybe you don't do it, but you've got to have that mindset that you're going to step it up. And I just don't see that anymore. I don't see.
It's few and far between, for sure.
Yeah, you got to have that drive.
It's like, I wonder if it's just part of the culture, man, because I
don't know.
I just feel like so many kids are just much softer. I don't know how else to put it. Obviously, Mike, you knew my dad. My dad was 80 years old, old school Italian guy. So I was raised.
Tony.
Respect to Tony.
Yeah.
I was raised a little differently in that regard. I see how kids are being raised, and like I feel like that really does have a major impact on athletes. Because so much of it is the sport. That's why you get these athletes like Patrick Beverley from the inner city in Chicago, one of the not really the most physically gifted. I mean, compared to any three of us, maybe, but for the rest of the NBA, no. But he goes in there and he's one of the top defenders. That's all heart. It's all grit. It's all his mentality. And it's like that kind of shit is so damn important. Like, how do you?
A lot of these kids don't have it. And if you sort of step back and talk to Tyler's dad or your dad or Mouse's mom, and you were to go sit and have dinner with these people, you would come out of it, maybe they're a Democrat or a Republican or a Christian or a Muslim or white or black or whatever they are, but you would come out with the same feeling from all of them, where you're going to say, hey, this is the salt of the earth, gritty. This person's got some tires on. Like they got some grit. They're made of some minerals, you know, and that's what you would get out of them. And a lot of these kids just don't have it. And I don't, you know, that's for me where I'm at, where like, I would love to coach a bunch of kids again. I'd be just as happy coaching D3 as I would in the pro division.
Totally.
But how do you find the raw grit, grimy dudes that you can put your stamp on? And I just don't know if they're out there right now. Like when we built the original Aftermath, it was so easy. These kids were right there in my face. Yep. Yeah. Come. Yep. Yes. We'll build
come on down.
So many of them. You know what I mean?
Mike, what was it like? Because obviously you were still playing on Dynasty when Aftermath, when we were kids, there was a turning point, and I'm pretty sure that Quitman recorded that practice at SC Village. I think it's
in the pit.
In the pit. And I feel like that was one of the practices where there was a turning point where we started winning maybe 51% of the points, at least like that weekend. You know what I mean? Well,
the turning point was the fact that Dynasty was righteous enough and cool enough to let these kids go out and play against them.
Oh, of course.
And after a couple of points, the kids realized, I can shoot that dude on the break. And I can shoot that dude. And Rory's out there.
Confidence.
Just ready to go. Compton Ray is peeling wigs. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. And I think that was a turning point. But that's a human thing, right? Like, man, human spirit is so strong and so able to persevere. And if you believe in yourself, you hear all these crazy quotes and all that, but at the end of the day, you have to bet on yourself. And if you do that and you believe in yourself, you're really capable. Like paintball, the barrier to get to the top is not unachievable or unattainable. You can all do it, but you have to you got to make an excuse why you can, not an excuse why you can't. And at the current time and right now, more kids are making excuses why they can't than why they can. Yeah. Just one man's opinion, you know, like they're not, again, respect to Tyler, respect to Marcelo. I'm going to fuck you up. Yeah. Like that's how I would be looking at it. But these kids out there are like, man, I don't even want to go on the field with those dudes. Like they just don't want it. But if you're going to lose every fight, you know, if you don't throw the punch, like you got to get in there and get it.
That's
you know?
right.
Like you have to have a killer mentality, and it comes in the eyes too. And they just don't, a lot of these kids don't have it. And I think we all struggle, like in that question that Marcelo asked, how to answer that. Because we all, by our nature, want to see people rise against and rise up out of this. And you don't want to say something to like make people believe they can't, but like, hey kids, if you can hear me, you're not doing your job. You're not putting enough pressure on these guys. Because the truth is the old pros are staying old pros. If this was the NFL, some undrafted free agent would be taking your job right now.
But
they're not, because you kids aren't putting pressure on Marcelo, on Tyler, on Arturo, on Mouse. These dudes are like, they're like Tom Brady showing up for their 18th season because they're like, I'm better than all you punks. And these kids aren't putting the pressure. And I don't know what it takes to get to that.
I think that you're helping right now, Mike. I think that you're helping out tremendously, actually.
But so are you guys, you know, like look at Austin that plays with AC. Was it Diesel?
Yeah.
Austin that came out of
Austin.
I mean, he was coming. He was with Aftermath at some events, you know, World Cup and the semi-pro when we won the championship. He was there with us, learning and taking in. There are kids like that want it, but I don't. You know, I think probably the best way to say it is there's not a lot of them.
There's not a lot. Mike, I will tell you, man. There's a few kids that have been coming to these summer camps, coming to multiple clinics, that you would be stoked on.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. No, I think there's some out there.
Oh, for sure. But I agree.
I just think like back in the day, like we're out there at SC Village, like a bunch of prepubescent kids ready to rock and like beat you on the field and beat you off the field. Like Big Sheezy, where you at? Like,
dude, I missed this.
Shout out to Big Sean, man. Damn, dude.
Yeah. But like,
dude, if you see him, tell him what's up for me. I miss Sheezy.
Me too.
I see him all the time,
dude, for sure. Shout out to Sheezy one time.
But there's this, we don't have that right now. And I hope a lot of these young camps hear what you guys are preaching, come, you know, watch, listen, and be like, hey man, it's respect, but I can do that too. You know what, Tyler, you've been at the field 30 weekends. I'm going to be there 52. And like 5 more weekdays. Like I'm going to step it up Because if the Russians can do it in Russia with no great competition before.
Exactly. That's such a good point, Mike.
And build it and then come over here. Because come on, man.
Right.
Europe has to keep our pros out of it. So we're going to go over there and crush skulls.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
Such
so they could do it in a land where they didn't have a lot of good competition, but they held themselves accountable. And they made Fedorov and Malloy, all those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ghostface Killer and like all the old guys on the team held themselves accountable. And Toronto and all the coaches stepped it up. And if they can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Paint's so cheap. Everybody's going to the field with 30 cases. 30 cases. Like, man, there's so many drills you can do with 30 cases to make you better.
Oh my God, dude.
For sure.
You know, you can do so much, but you got to understand it. And you got to wake up in the head. And a lot of these teams are just out there on Saturdays and Sundays to win points, not to win tournaments.
Yep. And just shoot paint and not be really doing the work that's necessary for sure. Yeah. It's such a good point, man. I think you put that really good, dude. I love that.
Try.
It's amazing. Absolutely. Hell yeah, dude.
I wish, for
you're
all
a part of the lineage of us too, Mike. Like your thoughts, the way that you carry yourself has dripped over into our fucking system. You know, like we still remember getting yelled at by you and like all the things that you told us over the years, you know, is
the one thing about the yelling at that gets me, and you're totally right. But that if it, at any point, like, and I say this with due respect, Marcelo lost his dad recently. I reached out to you the second it happened, that I found out, because I was friends with your dad, still friends with your dad to this day. But if anybody ever needed a hug or needed a call or needed, some of our guys have had ins and outs with drugs or whatever it is, that the phone was always here. And like, I would get in my car and drive down and pick you up right now. I mean, Rory had some ups and downs in life. He was living in my house for a while. Yeah. No problem. Like,
you've always been there, dude.
I think nobody ever saw that part of it. And totally, the video is edited where you just see me breaking a pot on somebody's head. You know what I mean? But what you don't see is that off the field, that, like, I don't have to see you guys every weekend anymore. But when I see you, I'm like,
what's good?
Now, you are one of the greatest people to have in your corner.
Are you kidding me? This guy? Of course, dude. Mike would go above and beyond for anybody, dude. But
what's funny is you guys all taught me a lot too, right? Like, I was 20-some years old going on 13 mentally, right? Like I had so much growing up to do and still do to this day. But like all of these guys helped mold me. And it's just so crazy that in this sport of paintball, I look back. I mean, I was watching a video the other day of MAO and Tristan screaming. And Tyler, you're in the background filling pods because you were on the first team. He was on the second team. And like just seeing all those faces, Keikoa and all the guys that we had, the firework wars out there.
Dude, I saw that video. It made me want to cry, dude. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Cause man, I love Tristan so much. RIP Tristan. And we had, dude, our squad, but like you said, like we were in the pro division and me, Mouse, the boys, we were in there feeling pods for the second team, hyping them up. Let's go, guys. It was just like, it was a brotherhood. And I'm so blessed to be a part of this brotherhood with all you guys sitting on this screen right now. It's just been crazy. The whole lineage has been nuts.
A party on wheels at Cracker Barrel.
Damn, dude. Hey, I don't care what anybody says about Cracker Barrel, Mike. I'm fucking with you on that.
I'm there too, baby. Let's go.
Cracker B.
Let's go.
That's funny. But yeah, man, I've been blessed. Like I was lucky enough to be in a position that I was around some really great human beings and got to watch a lot of great people mature into the men they are now. And, it's testament to the camp and all of it. Yeah, and for me, I'm so humble. I just sit back and I'm like, oh, who won? X Factor won? It's my boy Rainey. Billy was on the team. Right? Oh, Marcelo won. Mouse won.
Yeah.
Brandon Cornell won. And I'm like,
damn, nice.
You got your fingers Mike, in every team, man.
Mike, how old were you when you started Aftermath? You must have been like 28.
Mid 20s, maybe. Yeah.
Dude, that's kind of crazy to me now that I'm thinking about it.
Because what it was is I had all you guys out there and it was like, let's go play the PSP Pomona and play 7-man. You guys won both of them. And it was like, I mean, we just got to keep the ball rolling, right? These kids deserve it so much. And luckily I was in a position in life that I had the money to be able to pay for it. So we just kept paying for it and we kept riding it out. And it like an avalanche. It grew so fast.
Dude, Mike, you must have been like 23 or 24, which is, I thought you were so old.
No,
like at 13.
I am now.
Damn, dude, that Pomona event was gnarly. I'll never forget playing ECE in the pouring rain in the semifinals, wearing their black jerseys, nighttime with those lights. Dude, what a gritty, talk about grit and grind, dude. That's the only reason we won that event, is because our dudes were down. We were
no
down.
mercy, man, woman, or child, I believe is what the video said.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, man. It was brutal.
Hell yeah. Well, shoot, Mike. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I know the listeners are going to get a lot of value out of this, dude. And I'm
stoked to be on here, man. You guys are both legends. I'm so proud of both of you guys.
Dude, thanks, Mikey.
As human beings, as who you've like evolved into, is super cool. And for me, like, I am so out of breath and speechless to see how all of you guys have, I mean, even guys Dalton and Mouse and Rory and like Compton Ray lives up here in Temecula by me. I see all these guys, and I'm super proud of all the Aftermath guys that have come through and gone on to do whatever they've done in life, whatever it is, working at Walmart. It doesn't matter. That there's a lot of good people that have spawned, and we all kind of look at each other and smile, right?
That's like, right. Yeah, it's the brotherhood, dude. And thank you for, dude, being such an icon in the sport, bro. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I hope the better days are still ahead of all of us, right?
They are. Like, they are. And it's up to us, right? And we keep pumping out this this good stuff, and you doing all the amazing things you do for the industry, from the leagues to, you know, creating the paintballs that we shoot. We're just so honored to have you on, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Big love to your family, and you guys, stay safe out there, brother.
Hinge, where can people keep up with what's going on with the WCPPL and anything you got going on with the paint?
Facebook, Instagram. I mean, we're on all the social media platforms.
What are those?
Okay,
WCPPL.
Hey, Jerry, where are you at, brother?
All right, y'all have to find it. I think APX Paintball and WCPPL. That is
WCPPL on Facebook. You'll find us on there. If anybody ever has a question out there, friends, fans, somebody from the old school, send me a message, man. I love catching up with people. I'm right here. I'm only one click away.
Yep. You can get him on Instagram, Michael Hinman, or on Facebook. Yeah, and send a message and shoot the shit with Hinge.
Anytime, man.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Well, hey, you guys keep pumping out those amazing paintballs and having fun out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, man. Love you guys.
Back on.
Love you too, Hinge.
Mike.
Later, brother.
Peace.
Well. Another amazing show in the books. My goodness, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Hinman just dropped some damn knowledge for everybody. I hope you guys really appreciated that one, because that's truly one for the culture. Mike has done it all. He's seen it all. He's had all of the success and accomplishments and accolades that you can get in this game, from coaching to playing to business. He's done it all, and we can't thank him enough for coming on the show and sharing all of that insight with us. It was so valuable, and great conversation. Just absolutely love the guy. If you guys would like, you could head over to ptgpaintball.com. Check out our website. Our website is brought to you by Rusty Glaze. Rusty Glaze at Constant Pursuit. That is Rusty's business for web design. If you guys are a young entrepreneur, old entrepreneur, paintball company, field, business, whatever it is, you need a website so you can look more professional. Rusty is your guy. You could check out our webpage and see if you like his work. He does a fantastic job. We also have our merchandise on there, our Patreon, if you would like to become a supporter of the show. We are so thankful for you guys. As always, you guys just, you really are the lifeblood of everything we're doing. We appreciate you, and we're going to continue bringing you guys the best of the best, the most awesome content, and we can't wait to see you guys at an event very, very soon. Also, stay tuned, everybody, because we are going to be doing a live show later this week on our Instagram, so make sure to tune in, and we're going to be doing some cool giveaways. Giveaways are for you guys, everybody, for the culture, for the PTG fam. Again, we can't thank you enough. We'll see you soon.